Hey everyone, and welcome back to the DC Films Podcast. I know it's been a really long time since our last episode, and this is actually our first official episode of the new year, even though we're already almost halfway through the year. For those of you who've been following my channel or following the Twitter or my social media or anything like that, you'll know that the main reason why we haven't been doing a podcast in the last several months is I just had a baby girl back in late January, beautiful baby girl named Emily. So she's been taking up all of my time, and this is where all my time would want to go. So so because of that, and because my wife's been on maternity leave and she's been home all the time, and I took my leave and all that stuff. I've just been busy with home, family, and work. So that's why you haven't seen much of us. I did do a Shazam review a couple weeks ago, and we've talked about some stuff on social media, but we haven't done an official episode. But with all that being said and done, thank you guys for coming back. So joining me here are obviously some familiar faces if you've been listening to the podcast before. If not, you guys want to go ahead and reintroduce yourselves to the listeners.
Hello, you guys. I am Al Speed. You can find me on Speed of the Oppressed.
Hi, I'm Emily. You can find me on Queen of Mars on Twitter.
I'm Danielle, and I am a Social Justice League on Tumblr. I'm hardly ever there anymore. You might as well follow me on Twitter, which is, I believe, the Bravest Heart. I really don't remember.
It's the Bravest Heart, yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm Rebecca, and I'm Endeavor Network on Tumblr, spelled the American way.
Honestly, I should just stick to saying my Instagram, because that's where I'm mostly at.
So this episode is going to be mostly a Shazam discussion, but since it's been so long since the last time we recorded, there's been a lot of stuff going on with DC and DCEU in general. Obviously, the biggest thing is Ben leaving and not being Batman anymore, so we're probably going to talk about that. We talk about Birds of Prey and their shoot, and, well, actually, they finished shooting.
Yep.
Wait, they're done?
Yeah, they're just finished,
How did they finish so fast?
They've been filming since February, I think? Maybe late January?
That's, not that long.
Okay, anyways, we'll talk about more later. And of course, when I talk about some other stuff, we might get into Doom Patrol, because Danielle hasn't seen it, and we all need to force her to see it.
I haven't seen it either.
Oh.
Me either.
Well, me and Al are going to force you guys to watch it, because it's one of the most amazing things DC's ever done.
You don't have to force me to watch it. I just have to finish.
You have no excuse. You can use my account.
Which would I have been doing.
I have your stuff saved in a Word document. I just haven't actually tried it yet. And I haven't seen any of Titans either, so,
Wow.
I have no excuse. I've been watching The West Wing exclusively.
Wow, grandma over here.
I've literally just caught up on Black Lightning, yesterday.
Oh my god,
I'm still not caught up on Gotham, so I'm trying to, do one thing at a time.
How is Black Lightning, though?
It's fantabulous. The season finished.
Oh, it's already over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't watched any of the new season, and it's I love Black Lightning, but I just got so behind with everything, and the only shows I've been watching have been Doom Patrol, and then, of course, Titans and Young Justice and stuff. And lately I've been binge watching Game of Thrones, so I've been trying to catch up in time for the premiere. I'm still only halfway through the show, but I watched the premiere anyway. So that's what I've been doing. So, anyways, back to actual DC stuff. So this is going to be a spoiler discussion of Shazam and everything we liked, didn't like, and overall just want to talk about as far as the movie goes. So if any of you guys who are listening haven't seen Shazam, I'd recommend holding off on listening to this podcast, because obviously we're going to delve into the spoilers. If you haven't seen it and you don't care about spoilers, okay, that's on you, don't blame us. Otherwise, you've been warned. So going in for me, I honestly... first of all, I was really happy that Warner Brothers did the whole Fandango early screening, where it came out literally 2 weeks early for majority of the country, which is how I saw it.
Same.
Because for one, I think that showed a lot of confidence that they were actually proud of the movie, and I'm like, okay, well, this definitely a good sign, at least in my eyes. And I watched the movie, and of course, I've talked about it before on social media and stuff. I really, really enjoyed the movie. Not my favorite DCEU movie by any means. It has some problems, and it's definitely not. Obviously, it's not a Zack Snyder. Let me put that out there. I'm not knocking it down because it's not a Zack Snyder movie, but it's a different sort of tone in this universe. That it's not bad, and while it doesn't necessarily not fit, it's unique and it's different, and some things work and some things don't. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think that it had a lot of heart and carried a lot of the same themes that the DCU has been carrying in general, as far as, like importance of family and love and things like that. So on those end, I think it really worked. The villain and some of the plot points I think didn't work the best. Like, for this being a lower budget, it did have a little bit of a cheaper look to it. Not a terrible thing, just a little nitpicky thing. But like I said, I really enjoyed it. But if each of you guys want to go around and kind of like sum up your thoughts, and then we kind of delve deep into the spoiler things of the things we really want to talk about. So whoever wants to go first, you're more than welcome to.
Sorry.
I'll make it quick. I guess for me, going into this movie, I knew it was going to be drastically different from what we had seen before, with Zack Snyder films and all the other kind of DCU films. So that being said, I kind of opened up to it because I just kind of more or less accepted the fact that it was going to be a lot more fun. The plot was most likely going to be a little more simple to follow, and it would be a little more easier to, just get right into it. And to my surprise, it actually was, and I ended up really liking this film. Like, I'd say it's definitely in a sort of top 3 of favorite DCU films, along with Man of Steel and BVS. It just has this fresh take on the superhero genre, in which it's basically just a kid, figuring out what it means to have superpowers. But it didn't really tinge on, oh, look, I have superpowers, I can do whatever I want. Because, like, later on in the film, like, actual stakes start to come in, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but with the bus. No, just keep it like that. I think it was in the trailers, right? The bus scene.
This is a spoiler talk, so you can definitely go into it if you want to.
Oh, okay. Well, like the bus scene in which Freddy chews him out for, his showboating caused like almost the death of people on that bus. And what I really liked about that scene was that the scene didn't really hold anything back, in the sense that people were legitimately falling onto the glass, getting hurt. They could have slammed through that glass and fell, and that would have been Billy's fault. So, like, the actual seriousness of his actions as a superhero were very much implemented there. The only thing was, I just wish it was, like, used a little bit more to really drive home just how much of a risk factor there is to being a superhero, that comes with the job and the powers. But in terms of the character and all that, when I was going into this movie, one thing I was really looking to see is whether or not, the personality of Billy Batson and the personality of Shazam were, the same, one and the same. Because this is supposed to be like Billy Batson as an adult. But when I saw it, it kind of felt like, Billy Batson was more for the dramatic scenes, while Shazam was more for the comedic ones. And I guess that was one thing I was just really looking at, to see whether or not, their personalities would be alike. To the point where if you replace Shazam with Billy, would it still fit in terms of character? But I guess I wanted to ask what you guys thought about that, that aspect with Billy and Shazam. Because it boggled me.
I feel like similar, where like, I think they didn't all really feel like, if you tried to replace Billy with Shazam, then, or like if you tried to replace Shazam with Billy, or Captain Marvel with Billy, then it wouldn't have felt like it fit as well. But I think I saw you and Gene talking about this in the chat, that maybe the reason that Shazam acts kind of more silly than Billy does is because when Billy is Shazam, he feels like he can act like that, versus like when he's just his regular self, he feels like he has to be serious and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I think maybe they could have done a better job with making them feel like the same person. But I don't know. Like, the way I felt was that when Billy was like himself, he was more kind of like an edgy, like, emo kid, and then when he was like Shazam, he was just like super bubbly and stuff. But I don't know. When I was watching it, it didn't really bother me, but it was kind of like in the back of my mind.
Hi guys. So
Oh,
I just
hey.
it's pat my hair, guys. Anyway, I think when he's a superhero, I think it's a form of escape. When he becomes Shazam, he's escaped and he doesn't have to think of all the things that are weighing him down, as opposed to when he's a boy and he realizes that he's still a teenage boy and he's still trying to figure out who he is in the universe. And specifically with, the whole arc of him trying to find out where his mother has gone and that guilt that he has. So when he's a boy, he's a bit more serious and a bit more, I need to find who I am and I need to find my mum. It was my fault that, this is spoiler free, right?
No, it's not.
No, this is full on spoilers, Fatma.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but when he gets to say Shazam and he becomes a superhero, he's like, for that period of time, he doesn't have to think about the fact that, he's still a teenage boy in foster care. So that's how I see it, and I don't know whether any of you would agree with it, but it made sense because, it's who wouldn't want to take a few minutes of their day and forget that they have, all of the things that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, personally, I don't feel like I ever, I don't feel like, and I went into this sort of like, oh god, I'm gonna have to watch Zach Levi do this, and he's kind of a personal douchebag, and I didn't know if that was gonna negatively tinge my view of his performance. But I don't feel like I ever forgot, and I think that's what's really important to me, is that I don't feel like I ever forgot that this is a 14-year-old boy. Every single time something bad happened to him in Shazam form, I was like, that's a child, what are you doing? I definitely had that immediate knee-jerk reaction, and I think that there is definitely, I don't know, I would say, I think there's a definite bias toward seeing Billy as, when he's in his 14-year-old form, I think that there's a bias toward seeing him a little bit more innocent than he actually is, and I think that maybe sometimes we take for granted that Billy's a dickhead, and that, that coming through in Shazam form seems more abrasive because it's coming out of a grown man's mouth, and when a 14-year-old boy is doing it, he's kind of he's not a good kid, which is one of my favorite things about the film as a whole, is that he's not a good kid in terms of doing exactly what's right all the time and adhering to adult standards of behavior. And I mean, 14-year-old boys, I mean, I don't know if that's offensive, but 14-year-old boys are assholes.
They are.
Yeah, across the board.
I worked in the school system.
13-year-old girls are monsters, and 14-year-old boys are assholes. It just is. You have a lot of hormones in your body. It makes you act like a dick sometimes, and that's what I always felt like when I was when his sort of his swagger got turned up. I was always sort of oh, well, that's just what Billy thinks he can get away with in this form. And he's right, he can get away with it most of the time. He goes on a power trip. And I don't know, I didn't have any problem with that. And I was looking for it, remember, because we talked about it. I heard I said something in the chat, and I was like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for it. And I think the transition was actually smoother than I expected it to be, and maybe it's because my expectations were tinged by that conversation. But I thought the transition was pretty smooth, and I really like the sense of the sense of danger. Even when he feels very 14. He feels very vulnerable. It feels very much like I don't know. I felt like a mom the whole time. I was sitting there don't. That is a kid. Please stop. And I'm so glad no one decided to do any kind of romance. I was
just you saying that, it just had a cringe reaction.
Well, I mean, romance in general, very good. We're having that conversation in respect to Captain Marvel, but romance when you're transformed into an adult and
and
kind of romancing people who also look like adults is very scary ground, and I was hoping to not even have to step on it, so I appreciated that very much. I was like, okay, good, we have no moral dilemma there.
Yeah.
And the fact that
Sorry.
and the fact that they were all technically family in a way. So it would have been weird to put any of them in any relationship, and there wasn't much contact to outsiders in the movie, apart from the bullies in the school. So I agree wholeheartedly that.
Well, and I think that's a thing that we take for granted with adopted siblings and foster siblings, is we have this sort of like, oh, well, it's fine if they have a romance, and it's like that's not the number one reason why we think incest is bad. Actually, guys, like there are like emotional reasons too. Like it doesn't matter that they're not blood related. Like that relationship exists, and that relationship, is conducive toward abusive patterns. That's the reason we're pissed about it. Like, we're not actually pissed about it because, like, we're worried about their offspring or something. Like, we're primarily trying to protect people from themselves. And, I mean, this movie very much believes that foster siblings are actual siblings, and that's super
amazing.
Yes,
they handled that so fucking well. That honestly, like, my favorite parts of this movie was the whole family dynamic and all of the foster siblings. Like, honestly, the superhero stuff was honestly, other than the third act, was some of like my least favorite stuff in the movie. Not to say that I didn't like it, but just in comparison to the foster family stuff, that was handled so incredibly well. Like, I loved it so much. Like, from the parents,
also, can we give a shout out?
And the kids felt like real kids. Then. Like,
yes, that's what I was gonna say. Shout out to the actual the actors and actors' kids, because they really nailed those. They nailed those characters.
They all did.
Yeah.
They're all all the kids were fantastic. And granted,
yeah, what I love. Oh, go for it.
I was gonna say because I mean I'm already a little biased because I like the little actress who plays Darla is also on This Is Us, and that's also an amazing show that she's done incredibly well on. But she just steals your heart in this movie. She is honestly like. There's so many times where I'm just like, oh my god, I want to adopt her. Like, she was
the best.
Darla was, and then obviously this is spoilers, but when she finally became like her adult version or whatever, like that was just
Megan Good.
Oh my god, I loved it.
Oh no, that's the actress's name, Megan Good.
Oh yeah, Megan. Yeah, we'll get more into that later, but I just want to say like Darla was fucking amazing. All the kids were amazing.
Oh, I'm ready to gush about Megan Good. So,
and what I love so much is that like the superhero stuff was in service to the story about this family. Like that's what was really amazing. It's not even that the superhero stuff was less interesting to me so much as it was secondary to the narrative. Like the narrative was about Billy figuring out how to be in this family and how this family accepted Billy. And then on top of that, they were like, oh yeah, and also there are superheroes, which is so cool. Like that's revolutionary for the genre. Like it doesn't center the superhero idea, and it doesn't have to. Like it's just like, oh, this is just an incidental part of it because, this is the kind of movie it is. Not like, every single superhero movie has to be ABC about superheroes. It was like, we can take this and we can have this whole story of him becoming Shazam secondary to the story of him like finding himself and figuring out where he stands in the world.
Yeah.
Have you guys, at the beginning, did you give like your opinion of the movie in general, or how did it start, just so like I don't end up repeating something or going back to a point that you guys said?
We were just kind of like going through and saying like how we individually felt about it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say my piece. Oh.
Go on.
Sorry, I just want to just quickly state my opinion. I really liked the movie. It definitely was probably the most family-friendly DCEU movie so far, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it totally fits the character of Shazam. Yeah, like you guys said, the child actors are really great, especially Asher Angel. I think he did a great job for what he was given.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And but I think one of my real two complaints is like the villain. I think Mark Strong was good, but I think he could have got like more hammy with it, because like the character he was playing, he was like Savannah was like the original mad scientist. So I think he could like leaned into that a bit more, just kind of played up the kind of flair of that for a bit. And also, I think Mary could have gotten like a bit more, given a bit more to do, because she's like, at least in the comics, like she's only like maybe a few years like older than Supergirl in terms of like her existence, like potion wise. So I think I kind of wish she was given a bit more to do, since she's such an important character to like the Shazam mythos, you know. So yeah, but those are just my quick thoughts. I'm sorry, Fatma.
Oh my god,
No,
seeing that
go
costume in
ahead.
live action.
You've been on it for longer. But yeah, I can talk about it from like, I went for the first viewing. It was just me, myself, and I laughed at the parts that were funny, and it didn't feel awkward because I loved Aquaman, and Aquaman is still like really high up on my list. But some of the humor in Aquaman didn't land as well. But in this, every part landed so well, and each moment had. So the funny parts were funny, and then the serious parts felt serious, and it all molded together so well, and you didn't feel awkward at any point. And then even the monsters and I understand your reservations with regards to the villain, but I feel like they did well in terms of making sure that the center of it was Billy and his journey into this family, and his journey into this role in general. Maybe in the future, especially with the after credit scene with that caterpillar. What's his name?
Mr. Mind.
Mr. Mind.
Mind, yeah.
The Mind. I think definitely in the next few movies, Mr. Mind will have something involving Dr. Savannah. You know, in the next movies, I'm assuming there will be, and there has to be. I don't care about the box office, but this movie was amazing. And then the second time I went with my brother, who's 4 years old, and he didn't find the monsters as scary as some children did. But maybe he has a better tolerance, and he genuinely loved the movie. It was a movie that he felt that, I can be a superhero too. And he till this day, he just goes around the house and he says Shazam! And it's just so great to see him enjoy a movie as well. And I enjoyed it too. So in my books, this movie like ticked all the boxes. And I'm so glad that it was made the way it was, and I just really hope more people watch it before Endgame, because it's so good. I loved it. And that's my two pieces. Sorry.
So Danielle, have you given like your kind of overall thoughts yet? Because I mean, you've chimed in here and there, but I just want to make sure that you have had your turn.
I mean, I have so many thoughts. Did anyone see Brett Culp's video on it? Because I wept.
No.
Wait, who?
About it. Brett Culp, who is a fabulous documentary filmmaker who makes he made like a Superman documentary and a Batman documentary about like inspirational superheroes, and he's kind of an inspirational speaker. But anyway, he made a Batman versus Superman video back when it came out, that like he just started crying toward the end, and I started crying toward the end, and we were crying together, and it was beautiful. Anyway, no, he kind of summed everything up for me as far as like the impact of this film. But I think in terms of impact, in terms of like how it made me feel on a personal level, I would rate it like, I actually haven't figured out if Wonder Woman or Shazam was more impactful for me. And that's like, that would put it at like number 3 on the DCEU list.
Wow, that's wow.
Yeah, like it's a huge movie and a huge accomplishment, and I think like it does it in such a modest way. Like it's just sort of like shuffled into the room at the end of April, like at the beginning of April, and was just like, hey, and like that was kind of like the box office impact. But like when you go to this film, it just like, I don't know, there's something really, really amazing about the way this film feels while you're watching it, and it feels like it just lets you in. It's so easy, it's so effortless, and it's made with so much love that like even the parts that were a little bit like definitely the first thought that I had when I was coming out of it, and I went straight to the bathroom because that's my way, and I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was sort of like, okay, there are parts of this script that are pretty rough. There are parts of the script that, like, you know, there are bumps and ridges, but like everything about the thematic resonance of this film made me totally forgive a lot of those little bumps and ridges. Like I would say like Wonder Woman is a technically more well-crafted film, but I would say that Shazam is going to be one that I want to watch over and over and over again, and I've only seen Wonder Woman like 3 times.
Oh wow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Honestly, I try my hardest with Wonder Woman, but I've seen it twice. Whereas Shazam, I'm really like edging and trying to like get to a 3rd viewing.
Yeah. I think like and that's the thing. It's not like I didn't love Wonder Woman. It's not like it didn't have an impact on me. It's not like I didn't cry because Chris Pine is amazing. He gives a fantastic performance at one point during Wonder Woman. But like that, I mean, like it's not a movie that I'm like just like aching to revisit. Whereas Shazam, I was like, I got out of it and I was like, can we go right back in? That's huge.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. And I was not to say that Wonder Woman is in any way a bad movie, but I just feel like its rewatchability is less so than most of the DCEU for me. And I'll rewatch it on occasion, but at first I watched it a few times. I watched it like 3 times in theaters, and then I saw it a couple of times on when it was released. And since then I've been like, okay, like I'll revisit it at some point, but you know, I'm fine with not watching it for a little while. Shazam, honestly, for me, gave me that same feeling of like hope and wonder in a superhero film that I personally haven't felt since watching Superman the movie, like the 1978 Richard Donner version, for the first time when I was a kid. Like, and not to say that like obviously like I love Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. Those are still my top 2 favorite superhero movies of all time, and obviously my favorite 2 DCE movies. But and in the fantastical elements of this film, and just the way that it makes you feel at the end of it, just like that feeling to me hasn't been replicated since watching Superman the movie for the first time. Like just the score and it's just like the sense of like you're like not hopefulness necessarily, but just like awe and wonder in a superhero film that like honestly so many films have attempted to capture but honestly don't. Like this movie is the type of tone that Joss and Morbo was so desperately were trying to attempt with Justice and so horribly failed. Well, there's an earnestness that's necessary for that to work. Like that's the thing. There's an earnestness that a lot of those more cynical films are missing, and I think that the thing that we're kind of describing is like these movies, when they're geared at children, when they're really authentically geared at children, they're supposed to make the adults in the audience feel like a child. And unless you get that feeling off of it, it hasn't really worked to do what it was trying to do. I think Shazam does it. I think the Donner Superman does it, and I think that Into the Spider-Verse does it. Oh, Into the Spider-Verse, hell yes.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of films out there that successfully do it because it's a very hard thing to pull off. And I think that true to the movie, like a purity of heart and a purity of intention has to be there in order for that to really translate into the screen. Like I really think you have to have the right intentions. And this movie clearly, like I said, it just comes to you with its hat in its hand, and it's just like, hey, I'd like to be your favorite superhero movie, if that's okay. And you're like, yes, give it to me.
I mean, granted, I will say this is still not my favorite DCEU movie or even superhero movie, but it never tries to be like the best. It's just here to be like, hey, this is our movie. We hope you enjoy it. And like, so many movies like aren't like that. They're so like, this is the next best thing. This is the next Dark Knight. This is the next like. Not every movie has to be that way. And I'll admit, like DC and Warner Brothers have tried that and failed on a couple of occasions, and Marvel does it constantly. We're like, they have to hype up every movie as being so much more than it actually is. This movie is, that's the thing, is like what Danielle, what you've been saying is like, it's so earnest and it's never trying to be anything more than what it actually is. And I think that's why I think it's gonna I think it's gonna stand the test of time and be held in higher regard more than most films of the same tone and of the same genre of like lighthearted comic book film. Oh, you have something to say, Emily? Did you like Shazam? Oh, you're silent? Okay. I mean,
Don't put her on the spot.
I know, she's like,
I want to hold her. She's so adorable.
Thank you. Say thank you, Emily.
Oh my god.
Whenever she's on the spot is when she
just 2 months, isn't she?
She's just 2.5, almost 3 months. So in 12 days, she's 3 months old. Yeah, so my wife's at a doctor's appointment for a few hours. I have some alone time, which is why I was able to actually do the podcast today. But maybe get some daddy-daughter time. But
like, you know, at the end, the way that he came into being comfortable with being Shazam and finding that balance is when, you know, when he was in the lair. Or is it Shazam's temple?
It's the Rock of Eternity is the name of the comics.
It's the Rock.
Yeah, the Rock of Eternity.
It's literally called the Rock.
Oh, so
yeah.
I mean, the Rock is going to be in the movie soon. I mean,
Rock of Eternity.
that works too.
Well, I totally didn't think about that when I said it. I'm like, wait a minute, why is everyone? Oh, yeah, because the Rock is still supposedly Black Adam.
Oh no, he's definitely on it, because when I stayed and when we stay for the after credits, his name is there as a producer or whatever. Well,
he also made a video about
he did. He made
the
a very
movie
passionate
itself.
video about the movie. Like
he was real sweet. It was cute.
He was funny, like, and I know I've been saying for a while now. I'm like, oh, is this movie really gonna happen, or is The Rock just kind of like, oh, I'm really excited about this movie, and then Warner Brothers gonna be like, one day, like, oh, well, we aren't. But like, he's been championing Shazam and Black Adam for so long that I hope his movie sees the light of day just for his sake, because I love The Rock.
Well, I think that at this point we can go ahead and assume that Danny Garcia has a significant investment in Warner Brothers in general, because she's in the credits for Shazam, first of all.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she is, and then she's managing
Henry.
both Dwayne and Henry. So I mean, like, she's holding down a significant amount of star power in that corner, and I think that if either of them end up getting cut from Warner Brothers, we might see her and the other star kind of fade back, which like is good. Like it means that we might be able to keep Henry, but you know, it depends on how you feel about keeping Henry.
Well, I think everyone here wants to keep Henry. I mean, I do.
I mean, I'll throw Henry in a trash can over Amy, but well, you know, that's different.
I mean, like, I want to keep him, but like only if Zach can like come in and like teach him what's what, because he's not getting it right now.
We've heard him run his mouth. He's too dumb for this. I love you, Henry, if you're listening, but you're stupid.
Oh boy!
Just get
anyhow.
him and Zachary Levi in a room
so
together, and then just educate them for hours until they get it.
Literally, give me the job. I'm ready to spank both their asses so much. I will take them to task. I literally was afraid to go meet Henry Cavill because I was like, I'm going to try and put him in school. I can tell. I'm going to meet him and I'm going to be like, hi, so can we talk about intersectionality? I know that has nothing to do with Superman if you don't think about it, but actually, okay, he's got to go. Someone call security.
I'm not sure if he I don't know if he even knows what that means.
Oh my god.
If I'm being honest.
I mean, I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure. I'm 100% he doesn't. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand institutional sexism. Like it's ABC time for Henry.
Oh my god. It's just so sad every time I think about it. I'm just like, why? Why?
It's, like honestly, he almost needs like Zach as his manager to keep him like in check as far as the stuff he says.
Zach would just give him the manual, and he'd open up the manual, and it would say, "Do not talk."
I apologize.
But yeah, back to Shazam. With once he realized the whole thing with his mum and how he's been missing out on so much because of the obsession and all that, and he tried to reach out to Savannah when he was in the Rock of
Eternity.
One day I'm going to really annoy some people with my lack of name collection. And he was trying to talk to him and talk to him like based off the experiences that he had, and it felt like he was coming into the role and understanding that life isn't always what you think it is, and you still have to find the good in people, and you still have to find the good in things, and you still need to fight for keeping that goodness within yourself. And that's how I felt it worked out at the end, especially with the whole how he tried to talk to Savannah down. But it was an all-round brilliant movie. I think it goes after Aquaman in my ranking. But yeah. And then the whole little nudges of how he realized that when all of the 7 deadly sins are outside of him, he's vulnerable. That was a smart way to do it without, this is how you beat Savannah. It was just like, oh, wow, okay. It wasn't spoon-fed, and it didn't need to be, but it was done in a smart way, Mm-hmm. And how they all came together, and it was. I just love it so much.
Oh, that third act was so amazing. Like it's like for one, the way one of my favorite comedic moments in the movie is when Savannah is giving his big bad villain speech in the sky, and it's so many movies, they could be 3 blocks away and they're shouting at each other and they're having full-on conversations, and in this, realistically, you can't hear a word he's fucking saying.
I mean, doesn't Shazam have super hearing like Superman?
That
I don't know. I don't think
he doesn't.
He does.
Oh, okay. So in the comics, he doesn't.
Nah, he doesn't.
Right, cool. That makes sense because it makes sense for Superman to be able to hear someone far away, but maybe not for Shazam. Because I was like, maybe.
I don't want a little boy to have super hearing.
Oh yeah,
please.
Or X-ray vision.
Sure not. Yes.
But honestly,
limit all of those.
But one of my favorite moments in the movie overall is that moment after he's reunited with his mom, and after you find out that she ultimately abandoned him, when he says, "Oh, I have to go back home to my family." That hit me so fucking hard. Oh my god, I was ready to cry in the theater right then and there.
Yeah. One thing I liked about that scene was it definitely put a perspective on mothers, the mother theme that's been used in the DCEU. And, that's been a thing for the DCEU. It's always this very heavy importance on mothers. So for Shazam to kind of go a different route with the whole mother trope, it's definitely a good change of pace.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that.
Well, one thing I think that this kind of surprised me about this movie, because granted, I haven't read comics in a while, so I'm not sure if they changed this, But originally in the comics, Mary is his biological sister. Like Mary, I think Mary were twins, if not, she was an older sister or something. But in this, as far as we know, they're not blood related at all. So when they did that, I'm like, oh, that's different. Not that she had to be his blood sibling to make it emotionally important or anything, but I was like, okay, that's a different change. But another one of my favorite moments is in that third act when Billy finally gets the staff and he's like, and he's bringing everyone together to know the whole hands-in thing that they've been.
Yes, that was awesome.
All hands on deck.
And all hands on deck. And the moment when he's like, say my name to get my powers or whatever, and everyone's like, Billy!
Billy!
That was so adorable!
I know. Seriously, it's like I said, Fatma, so many of the comedic moments work so well in this movie. Like, and they're not trying to like beat you over the head with the humor. They're just genuinely funny moments that come from the situations. Not from them trying to be like, hey, this is funny, this is funny, this is funny, are you laughing yet? This is funny.
That's the thing too is
Sorry.
That's the thing too is that like you can tell in terms of the script that like there aren't like marks where there should be comedy beats. Like there's no obligatory comedy beats, which I think is really a statement about like how seriously they took the process and how much they cared about like just telling a stronger story, whether or not the writing is strong or not. Like, you know, they took a minute to just kind of be like, well, like what's naturally funny in this situation, instead of being like, well, you have to make the audience laugh here, you have to make them cry here, and you have to make them, you know, scared here. They were like, well, what happens?
Yeah, I remember David Ayer once said that the humor in the movie would be less quips and more like situational humor. And you can kind of tell that David Ayer had a lot to say in the comedy, because if you look at his Instagram, you can tell the guy is naturally funny. Yeah.
I switched to Suicide Squad for a second, sorry. I'm the last person to even talk about names, but like... did I miss something with David Ayer?
No. I think you meant David Sandberg, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm so bad with names, so I was like, Anyway, sorry, go on.
That's what I said.
On his Instagram.
Yeah. He has a lot of funny stuff on his Instagram if you like looked at it. Because like everything that he puts on his Instagram is like something related to the movie, but then it's also something like really hilarious. I don't know. You guys got to see it for yourselves. He goes by Pony Smasher.
Which is, but yeah, so David Sandberg, like, for one, I had faith in this movie after I saw Lights Out, the little horror movie that he did, which is based off of the short that he did that James Wolcott ultimately got Warner Brothers to fund and do the movie for. But seeing him when he was making this movie, just seeing how much of a fan he truly was of the character and of Superman for that matter, like seeing him just so genuinely excited to be part of it. And being so tongue-in-cheek about the stuff he was working on made me really excited, because I'm like, you know what, like, this doesn't feel insincere. It doesn't feel like he's forcing this and making it feel like, oh, well, he's just doing this because Warner Brothers is paying him to. Like, no, it generally feels like he's having a good time making this movie. And you can tell by the way the movie, for one, is made, and for two, just the way the movie carries itself in general. You can tell like it was made by someone who cares, by someone who's trying to, like, make a movie that matters to people.
Did you guys see his cameo?
Oh yeah. So apparently he ended up being like, you know that scene when they're on the Rock of Eternity and they were going from the door to doors, and then they're in the one room where like it was like the talking alligators. That they were all him. He was every alligator.
Oh wow, yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun little cameo for him. But speaking of cameos, and I know Al, you didn't really want to talk about this. I've been talking about this. Probably everyone has been wanting to talk about this. And this is going to probably be the most debated topic of this podcast. Superman's cameo in this movie. And obviously, if you've seen the movie, you know it's not Henry. It's Zachary Levi's body double in the suit. But what do you guys think of the way that his Superman was introduced, as well as what this means for his character in the future?
I expected to be so much more pissed than I was. I expected to be on fire. Like, I was ready for this to ruin the movie for me. I literally sat down and I was like, all right, fuck this film. Like, literally. Because, like, I got spoiled for it beforehand. And then I was sort of like, okay, well, I'm glad I was prepared. And then it happened. And I feel like I didn't even notice. Like, I feel like I was just like, oh my god! Like literally, okay, here, part of this is because Jack Dylan Grazer is the most amazing actor I've ever seen in my entire life, and he's funnier than everyone in the entire world, and I love him.
Sorry, who's Jack?
He's
Grazer?
Freddy.
Oh, Freddy!
Oh, sorry, okay, go on.
Literally, Superman walks into frame, and I was like, Freddy, look! Freddy, oh my god, this is the greatest day of your life, are you ready? Freddy, it's happening! And, like, literally, I love that moment was so much about Freddy that I didn't give a shit what was happening with Superman. I was just like, well, yeah, he's here, I see that. Like, it's the right suit. I did definitely check to make sure it was the right suit. It's the correct suit.
It is bright.
got a few changes to it.
It is a lot
Well,
brighter.
put the red on the waist. Put the red on the waist.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But, I mean, like, it was the right symbol and the right suit, and it was, like, fine. It wasn't a dig at the cinematic universe in which they're trying to exist. And I don't know, like, it was really cool how, like, when I saw it, I wasn't even like, oh, well, what's this Superman cameo gonna be about? And get all, like, weird and judgy like I usually do. I was just so excited for Freddy that I lost all sense of critical thought. I was like, Freddy, it's happening! It's finally happened! Turn around, are you ready? We're not ready.
Yeah.
I mean,
But,
apparently, I guess I was reading up on it. Apparently, they were actively trying to get Henry to be in that role, but it's hard to say. It's hard to like believe directors and stuff in studios when it comes to stuff like this. But David did say, "Hey, we were only filming at this middle school for a set amount of time. Henry couldn't be there in that set amount of time." And David even says, honestly, he likes the cameo more without Henry in it. Because if Henry was there and he was speaking to Freddy or anyone, then the end of the movie would be more about Superman than it was about any of the characters in the movie.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Exactly. I don't. That cameo was really good. I think it was just enough. I didn't want to see. I mean, it would have been great to see Henry's beautiful face, but I think it worked really well, especially with focusing it on the movie itself and Freddy himself. But it's in general with the future, it gives me hope that at least in any other movie, we know that Shazam and Superman have spoken together, you know, talked to each other about things, and maybe have helped each other in different, you know, superhero-y stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice, and I'm hoping that with how things are going with DC at the moment, they're not all bad, that Superman is given a chance. With the rumours that I've heard of J.J. Abrams taking Superman or something, I don't know the legitimacy of it, but I have to hope.
Yeah, but it's so hard, like, I'm so torn about Superman as he stands in the DCEU right now. Because if Zack's not involved, I don't know who else I would honestly 100% trust in directing a solo film for Superman.
That's all I can think of.
Like, I don't... It's so hard to imagine anyone who's going to, first of all, bring Amy back and treat Amy the way she deserves to be treated. And
who can get Amy back is the question. Someone pitched J.J. Abrams, and I was like, Amy Adams doesn't want to work with J.J. Abrams. Nope. Automatic veto.
Why?
Figure out somebody who Amy wants to work with. Like, I mean,
Why does Amy not want to work with JJ?
I mean, I'm not saying that I think Amy has, like, an aversion to working with JJ. Like, I don't think she's like, oh, fuck JJ. I think that he's not an interesting enough director. to draw her attention. Like I need a David Fincher. I need someone who has like some sort of like artistic weight. Zach is unique in the way where he makes those kind of, you know, big explosion movies, but he can also pull those actors who really want to do artsy films. And that was like the sweet spot. I think that I don't know that JJ could get her back, especially after Warner Brothers has treated her. Like, I think if they would have had it be a JJ Superman from the get-go, she would have totally been on board. It would have been fine. But at this point, they need to give her more because, you know, they screwed her over. Like, she was treated terribly by this franchise. I just want someone who's interesting enough. That's all.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's so, like, Zach, I don't think Zach's coming back for another one of these films at all, ever. I think he's officially done.
I think the only time that he might not be done is because I think he's also passionate about the you know, the cut for Justice League. That's the only time he'll ever set foot in any superhero editor's room, is to edit the cut together. When it happens, if it happens, that's the only time I think he'll ever work on cape shit stuff, if that's the right term for it. But other than that, I do agree. I don't think I don't want that for him either, because the hate and vitriol that he gets when he does any cape shit stuff is just ridiculous, and he gets it regardless. But it's amplified with cape shit stuff.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I mean, like, Warner Brothers is one place. I think it would be interesting to see him work for Sony, and I think he would have been a great fit at Fox back when Fox existed.
Let's not even go down that road. It's that's just terrible. I think J.J. Abrams does have it. Like, with what he's done with Star Wars, I think he's got it. But I don't know.
Maybe there were Chelsea's. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh shit!
Unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with the work, but from what I've seen, they seem to have like a good visual flair, and like I'll say, since they're trans women, they can handle like maybe social issues with maybe a bit more grace. I don't know, compared to maybe your usual white guy. Even like no offense to Zach, but I think maybe they can offer a very much needed perspective on Superman. You know.
I think too, like it's not necessarily about having the chops. It's about who is doing something new and interesting and artistic. And I think, the Wachowskis would be a great fit for that. But I think the Wachowskis would be a great fit for everything. I think the Wachowskis would be a great fit for president. Like, let them do whatever they want.
Like, honestly, like, and as like, it's funny, as a kid, I remember seeing the previews for their Speed Racer movie and being like, no one is going to see this. Like, what is the point of making a Speed Racer movie that no one's asking for? And oh my god, I still love that movie so much to this day. Like it's.
As soon as you watch it,
like, it's so good. Like, it's, and obviously, like, Matrix is a big one. Like, or the Matrix franchise is a big one. But for me, like, my favorite of theirs is Speed Racer. Like, they handle it so well, like adapting that kind of material in a way that's not like inherently trying to whitewash or trying to like inherently like being like, oh hey, like this is the American version necessarily. Like it's just I just love what they do with it. I haven't seen all their movies. I've seen all of their Matrix movies and Speed Racer, but that's about it. I love what they've done with those movies. I would just like to see them tackle something big like this again. Even though like probably Warner Brothers is like, well, a lot of their movies have bombed lately. They probably don't have the faith in them, but I still think they deserve a shot because they've made amazing films.
I think the only thing that they need on their resume as far as making a Superman film is Jupiter Ascending. I'm just going to say it. Like, if they can write a dog person falling in love with a housemaid, they absolutely are prepared for Reporter Girl and Alien Boy, because like they'll get that that's like a romance. They'll get that this is like they could do something in that genre if they wanted to, and that's something that they'll actually intuitively understand because they've already like shot, lady self-insert fanfic, so they know like exactly what they're doing in that category. Like, I trust them to make, you know, a sexy alien romance more than anyone else on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've never seen Jupiter Ascending. At the time I'm like, I don't know. Mostly because I'm just not the biggest fan of like Mila Kunis like dramatically.
Okay, but if you love Legends of Tomorrow, you kind of love Jupiter Ascending. Just saying, like it's like that's the genre, that's the feel. Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of crazy shit, because I mean, granted, this is the DC Films podcast, but I want to get on this because we haven't talked about it at all, because obviously we've been gone for so long and the show wasn't airing at the time.
Oh wait, I didn't even get to say what I wanted to say about Superman though.
Okay, you can go.
I forgot. I'm gonna make it quick since I don't want to keep anyone waiting. So my only thing about this cameo is that at first I was gushing about how much I loved it, and I think it was only because it was like a quick second of seeing him, and then it just cut to the credits. So I didn't really get to ingest my all-around feelings because, like I said, it was just like a 1-second cameo. But it does have me worried as to whether or not, you know, Superman is going to continue to be, you know, is he going to continue to just be that cameo character to come into a lot of other movies and be like, hey, there's Superman, there he is. Too bad we can't get his own movie though for some reason. And yeah, that's all I'm worried about. You guys pretty much said everything for me.
Yeah, but I will say though.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from. But I will say, to play devil's advocate, Shazam and Superman have such a long-running history together as characters that if Superman was gonna cameo anywhere in the DCEU, it would be Shazam, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the movie where it would be in.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie necessarily means that Superman's going to be relegated to just being a cameo character. Well, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's a valid concern. I have that concern too. But I think I forgive this film because of the nature of the history of the character's relationship. That's where I'm at, personally.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, so again, like I said, like we're gonna kind of delve into some non-DC films discussion here. If you guys aren't watching Doom Patrol, go fucking watch Doom Patrol. Oh my god,
it's amazing! I love it so much, especially that Danny Street episode. Oh my god!
They literally had an episode about a sentient, genderqueer street that like takes in people who are consider themselves outsiders that society has shunned, that society has pushed away. Like, and whether it's just like a person who's gay, a person who's trans, a person who wants to be like anyone who wants to be part of Danny Street can be. And Danny Street, like, they literally like appears out of nowhere in random locations. Like it's not like a set location. And it's the way that, like, in Doom Patrol is the weirdest fucking show ever. I can't begin to explain what the plot of the show is, because every week it changes. I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but I love every second of it. It's so inclusive. It brought Brendan Fraser back into acting in a big way, and he's fucking incredible. Like, every character actor in this is great. Cyborg, not as much. He's probably my least favorite character in the show.
Cyborg's like the hero.
I feel like Cyborg's there mainly to sell the show on cape shit. Like that's how you get the hardcore like comic fans and like, oh, there's Cyborg. Like, well, of course I'll watch this. So like, not saying he's bad, but he's just the way they write him can be a little over the top at times. Like over the top Cyborg.
I can honestly say there is not one boring episode of Doom Patrol. Like each episode just elevates the show even more. I think in terms of favorite episodes, I'd say it's either the Danny Street one or the one that just came out recently with Jane and her personalities.
Like, this show seriously...
I didn't watch that one. Please don't spoil the Jane personality.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say anything.
It just delves more into Jane's
okay.
This has to be spoiler-free. This has to be spoiler-free because I have been watching The West Wing like a fucking nerd.
Stop watching it right now. Stop watching it right now. I swear to God.
I have to find out what happens to CJ,
I will fly to your house and I will turn it on for you. I swear to God. I have not gushed about a show this much.
Message received. For sure.
I wouldn't be gushing about this show as much as I am if I didn't honestly love it as much as I do. Not since like Smallville have I been this passionate about loving a show. Like,
oh shit!
Like, and anyone knows that like Smallville is like my all-time favorite TV show ever. With its
that's big,
teenage romance drama, like Tom Welling is still one of my favorite guys playing Superman who's ever played Superman. Like I love that show so much with its issues and all. Doom Patrol has been nothing but consistently amazing every single episode, and it's so weird. It's so over the top. Again, like I said, I can't even begin to explain to you what the show is about in any way whatsoever. Like all I know is it's a show about a superhero team from the comics. But in that aspect, there's no like other than Cyborg. There's no other comic really shit in here. It's like weird. It's like X-Men meets like the tone of Legend of Tomorrow, but like rated R. And then they bring in Brendan Fraser as a robot, and then they have like a character who has 64 distinct personalities, each with a different superpower, inhabiting one woman. But they don't like they aren't playing it like they do in Split, where it's like, okay, well this is just being like offensive towards people who have legit mental illness. Like no, like they treat every character so well, and even Matt Bomber playing Negative Man, he's so incredibly well written.
I love Larry.
Yeah, Larry, there are so many amazing characters in the show. And again, each episode, I can't begin to tell you like what each episode is even really about at the end of the day. It's just batshit. It's literally the definition of batshit crazy.
But at some point, I am hoping that some form of a plot happens, and there's something that they need to do.
I mean, there is a plot. They're basically trying to stop this guy, the main bad guy, Mr. Nobody, because he's kind of doing his plans and all that. But also, there is a main bad guy.
And also, the main villain is played by Alan Tudyk, who, if you don't know who Alan Tudyk is, if you're a DC fan, he's the voice of Green Arrow and Young Justice. And
he's a villain? He's a villain?
Yeah, he's the villain. He's the main. But
he's a great villain.
But he's like he breaks the fourth wall. He talks to the audience. He tricks a rat whose mom got ran over by the Doom Patrol bus into having a revenge plot against the Doom Patrol, and makes the rat go into the body of Robot Man. It's so.
Wait! Don't spoil it all! Don't spoil it all!
I have to give you some amount of context to know what you're going into. It's so weird. It's just honestly so amazing.
Oh yeah, and there's this recurring cockroach. There's this cockroach who wants to be a dominator, but that's something for another thing though.
Like seriously, if Danielle, oh wait, hold on. You guys can keep talking. I'm gonna take a little break from my daughter.
Anyway, Doom Patrol's like insane. Like I can honestly say it's one of those shows that I didn't think I'd be watching from like the beginning, but upon watching the first episode, you can already tell how absolutely nuts this show can be. And then you watch the rest of the episodes, and it's like, oh, it can get even weirder. Oh boy. But anyway, it's fucking nuts. That's all I can say.
I'm so sad that Robert Sheehan ruined his shot on Umbrella Academy. I'm hurting right now because it sounds like he should have shuffled on over to DC.
Yeah.
That's another axe to grind that has nothing to do with DC.
Wait, what actor is that?
Robert Sheehan is the what even number is, I can't remember his name now.
The Irish guy?
Number 4, I think. Yeah, he's the drug addict on Umbrella Academy.
Oh, he's the Irish guy, right?
Yeah, he's one of the most incredible actors I've ever seen in
God,
my life.
I love him.
Isn't he incredible?
In Misfits, I loved him so much.
I just watched Mortal Instruments for him, and it was one of the best performances he's ever put in. A very, very bizarre, weird movie. But I'm super sad that he decided to go with Umbrella Academy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think he would have fit perfectly in Doom Patrol.
That's a ringing endorsement. That's got me pushed over the edge. Yeah. Oh, well, and the thing is that like there are other reasons to watch Doom Patrol. Like Alan Tudyk is like one of the most amazing, like versatile dudes ever, and he's always a fucking joy to watch. Like, what's that movie where he's like in the hillbilly slaughter movie?
Texas Chainsaw?
Huh?
Texas Chainsaw?
No, he's not in Texas Chainsaw. He's in some sort of like comedy.
I think I know you're talking about, but I forgot the name.
Yeah, it's something versus evil. Like I don't know. It's super.
Tucker versus.
Evil? That hillbilly movie. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's really yeah. But like he can go from that to like his stint on Dollhouse was freaking terrifying. I thought that he was going to be a serious film.
Don't forget Steve the Pirate. Don't forget Steve the Pirate.
Tucker and Dale.
Yeah, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Genius. Really good. And like, yeah, like he's fabulous. There's no reason not to watch him. And like I was in the chat yesterday, I believe, gushing about Brendan Fraser. That's never not going to be a thing for me. Like
Brendan Fraser.
I was sold on it when I found out he was in it.
Honestly, I'm so surprised that like of all things come back to, he came back to this. But he steals the fucking show. I mean, granted, they do write him as like the lead character, and it's funny because he portrays, because Robot Man, obviously he's a character who used to be like a NASCAR racer back in like the 80s, who was an actual person played by Brendan Fraser, and now he's like his brain was taken out of his body after a car accident, and now his brain is in a robot body. So
yeah.
So Brendan Fraser, for the most part, only does the voice work for Robot Man. He doesn't physically portray the suit aspect or the physical aspect. But they have him pop in from time to time, like as Brendan Fraser. But even then, he does such an amazing job on the show. Like him and Matt Bomer are some of the best characters in this show. And it's so funny because this show is they set it up as a spinoff of Titans. And it's funny because they have not acknowledged Titans once in the entirety of the show. Because they had like a little backdoor pilot for Doom Patrol in like the 4th episode of Titans, where like Beast Boy came from them. Like he was raised by the Doom Patrol pretty much.
That was a weird ass episode, but it was really good.
Yeah, basically that episode is essentially what you really are getting in Doom Patrol, but
honestly,
kind of
honestly, I would even say I would go as far as to say that episode doesn't even necessarily do Doom Patrol justice, because it's like because Doom Patrol is it's such its own thing. Like I feel like that episode was more to introduce the characters vaguely. Well, and I will say for one, the character or the actor that they use for Chief, they completely recast, so it's not whoever that was in the Titan episode. But the Doom Patrol is just honestly, it's so much better than Titans, and I enjoy Titans. But there's a lot of things to me that didn't work about that show in general. Not to say that I hated it or anything, but there are just certain things that stand out more, I think, about it. But Doom Patrol is just seriously such an amazing show. Danielle, I'm seriously so surprised you have not got on it at all. Because this is, like, especially if you love Legend of Tomorrow, this is so much more your jam. Like, I don't understand why you're watching.
It's the only reason. It's not even about the West Wing. It's kind of about the West Wing. We have a very intense relationship right now. But it's just that we hate suspense. And we learned our lesson from Titans. We watched Titans one episode at a time, and every single time a Titans episode ended, I felt like I wanted to just throw myself out a window because I was just like so tense. And I was just like, well, if every single episode of these shows is going to be a cliffhanger, then I'm going to wait and I'm going to binge everything from now on. But if it's not if it's way less like Titans, then I don't see any reason why I can't start watching it right now. Like, if I can take it episode by episode, I absolutely have time.
Well, the nice thing now is that because you're so behind, you can easily just binge all of the episodes up until now.
Yeah, that's the good thing. It's at critical mass right now. Like, it's time to begin.
There.
I mean, like, I understand. It's funny because like my wife Amy will catch me watching everyone, and she'll watch some of the episodes with me. But like, it's weird that like because in general we've become such a binge culture that to watch a show week after week, like a streaming service show week after week, is so like it's so like almost infuriating in a way. Because you're like, well, why can't I just have this all now? Like, what's the point?
Well, I think it's infuriating too because of the way things are written now. They're written in that like comic book serial way where you do have to like they do want to have you like gagging for the next episode. So every single ending is a cliffhanger and it's exhausting. We've been watching a lot of media from the 90s right now, and that's just not the way things are. Season finales are cliffhangers. Nothing else is a cliffhanger. Everything else, like, you get wrapped up, you feel like you can go to bed after it. I think that television shows on the whole have really decided to take advantage of our binging addiction and have just made it impossible to sit down and watch one episode of television and then be like, I think I'm done. You know? And I think it's both things. It's both things. Like, I feel like I deserve all the episodes at once, but by the same token, I know that they're trying to manipulate me into watching all the episodes at once.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's weird because, like, even some of these week-to-week shows, like, they're treated, like, they're written as if you're supposed to binge, too. So, like, well, what's the point of doing week-to-week if they're being made to be binged? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, it's gonna hurt their viewing numbers, and you know, I mean, we have a freaking Nielsen box in our living room right now.
Wait,
and
what, really?
You know, yeah, really, it was the coolest thing. They came to our door. I don't even know how much I'm supposed to talk about it.
Those are still a thing?
So I'm putting it on a podcast. But like, yeah, but it's gonna hurt their Nielsen. It's gonna hurt their viewing numbers because people don't watch things live anymore. And you know, you don't know until a month later when you're like, hey, I think I should watch all of this show now that I have all of this show to watch. Like, it's a bad formula. It doesn't work. People cannot be TV watching machines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I would recommend Doom Patrol, though.
No, but seriously, like, I know we've gotten really off topic of what you guys thought we were going to talk about, but I couldn't go without talking about Doom Patrol. Like, when Danielle said in our group chat that she hadn't seen it, I'm like, oh my god. Like, I just had to, I had to gush about it. Like, Danielle, like, you, like, literally, after this podcast, start Doom Patrol. I'm not kidding. Like, it's seriously, like, other than the DCEU, it's, like, some of the best that the DC has ever put out, period.
All right, I'm submitting to the challenge. I'm finishing my taxes, and then I am watching Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot too. I'm just kind of busy with my Nintendo Switch lately. So, yeah.
Hey, I have a 2.5-month-old. Like, what's your excuse?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yep.
I had to watch my girlfriend play the entirety of God of War. That's my excuse.
Oh my god, I still want to play that even to this day.
Same.
You know what's,
Yeah,
it's
so
funny?
good.
Right, it's funny. Right before my daughter was born, I think I might have brought this up to you guys. I might have asked you guys, because I had this like GameStop gift card to get a new game for my PS4, and I was torn between either getting God of War or Red Dead Redemption, because everyone says those are like two of the best games of last year. And I was so torn, so I ended up getting Red Dead. I played all of about like 30 minutes, and I haven't played a single second since she's been born.
Oh no!
And this was back in January that I bought it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I can't believe you chose a game about playing as a cowboy versus a game about a father bonding with his son while ripping monsters in half.
Nobody knows that's what it's about. That's the problem. Like, if you go and look at people talking about God of War on the internet, they like don't even know that it's about that. Like, I feel like everybody's thematically challenged because everybody's like, yeah, it's so funny. It's so, you know, like, oh, it's so macho. Like, this guy. And I'm like, oh my god, did you see the part where, like, they were all crying together and I was just, like, amazed? Like, did you know that the entire thing is about grief? Did you see that, like, every single thing that you did, like, critically affected your relationship with your son? No? Okay, I guess I was watching. Whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, so what I've been doing in my spare time when Amy and I are watching something, or I'm not taking care of my daughter, or I'm not at work, I'm literally just playing Spider-Man. That's what I'm doing. I beat the game already. I'm literally just playing just throughout the city. That's what I do in my spare time. Like, I'd rather do that than play the story of Red Dead Redemption right now.
Spider-Man is good because you can just be Spider-Man, and like if you're playing as me, you can be like a terrible Spider-Man, and it doesn't really bring on the game. Like, you can just be like, oh hey, I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man who can't effectively swing from buildings and sometimes walks down the street into you. Really sorry, guys. And like, that's my play style.
And it's funny, one of my favorite things that you can do is in the Spider-Man game is that, like, if you land a certain way in a crowd of people, like, a ton of people will just collapse on the ground.
Yes! It hurts my feelings every time, and every time I literally apologize to the screen. It's become a tick, and she makes fun of me while I'm doing it. She's like, well, are you actually Peter? And I'm like, I'm trying to be the best Peter that I can be. Okay? Like, chill out. And Peter would apologize. He's a nice boy.
And again, another non-DCEU or DC film related thing. A couple months ago, so I got really late into seeing Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yes.
So I saw.
Here we go.
So it's been a little while since I've seen it for the first time. I will say.
Here we go.
I think it is hands down the best Spider-Man film ever made.
Absolutely,
yes. Yeah,
definitely.
It's so good. It's like I've watched it so many times. Like, and it encapsulates everything I love about Spider-Man. Like, between that and the Spider-Man video game, like, 2018 is an amazing year for Spider-Man.
It was.
And it's visually beautiful, and it's artistically daring, and it still is just very, like, down to earth and heartwarming, and just like, it's just everything. Like, it's just, it's one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen.
It is. Press F in the chat for poor Kingpin, because he has been getting his ass kicked in everything Spider-Man related. And pretty much 2018 was not a good year for Kingpin.
Oh, I told you so. He was in the Spider-Man video game, he was Into the Spider-Verse, and he's Daredevil. The Into the Spider-Verse, if you haven't seen it, it's seriously one of the best films, if not... It's definitely one of the best comic book films ever made, and I would argue it's one of the best films ever made as well. It's
I'm ready to accept that Spider-Verse was the first ever comic book movie to ever exist. I don't mind that.
Yeah, probably the best anime movie since The Lion King. This is an absolute feast for the eyes. It had like really great story, and yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
This is going quickly. So I just wish more like comic movies like try to be as like bombastic as that one. Like just like don't be afraid of. Well, I don't want to be like, oh well, Man of Steel's in color, but like this, I want like more movies to be like just have a visual pop to them. Just be not afraid to be like have like a psychedelic or kaleidoscopic kind of color scheme. I just want movies to like push that limit when it comes to the color schemes.
Yeah, to be made with that comic book flair. That's not like a that's not like a bad thing to say about movies in general. Like I think, and like Ang Lee's Hulk tried that in live action. He tried that big time, and like a lot of people didn't like it at the time. But I mean, granted, I haven't seen the movie in a really long time, but it still remains one of the most visually interesting superhero films, even if like it's not the best. Again, it's been a while since I've watched it, so I can't comment on its quality. But I'd rather have movies that try to be different and try to honor the source material that it comes from, rather than just have stale blandness.
Yeah, always. Always.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what, like, watching Into the Spider-Verse, it was made with such heart and such, like, care for Spider-Man as a character. Then, like, watching, like, the Far From Home trailer, I'm like, oh, we really have to go back to this?
It was like, oh yeah, this Spider-Man existed.
Was I like the last person to realize that they killed Chris Pine? Like was I the last person to realize like that's why I was weeping at the beginning of this movie?
Well, it's funny because like you would have never expected Chris Pine to do another superhero movie, let alone like Spider-Man of all things.
He was so perfect. Even before he was in danger, I was crying. Even before he was in danger, I was like, Peter loves us so much. This is beautiful.
And then he died.
And then, of course, he died. And you know that I love a superhero good and dying. Like, that's, like, my thing, I guess. Because it was my favorite part of the movie. I was like, no, Peter's dead. This is wonderful. I'm going to cry for a year.
Oh, yeah, and then we got Hobo Big Belly Peter Parker.
Hobo Big Belly. That's what he goes by.
But even then, that was, like, I will accept that as Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Like, that's
you love every Peter. Like, that's the great thing. Is that, like, it's not like, oh, we got the shitty Peter. It's like, oh, hey, here's another Peter. He's having a hard life.
I mean, basically, I kind of like I like Peter B. Parker a little more because he's kind of what I would imagine a real life Spider-Man to be like in his 40s or so. And I like that they let Spider-Man be, you know, kind of pathetic. They let Spider-Man, you know, they stripped him of all that glory and all that heroism that the first Spider-Man we saw had, and just kind of stripped him down to just a guy who got fired after, like, I don't know, 20 years of the gig.
I love that they let the Spider marriage be in jeopardy without just, like, breaking it apart. Like, oh, this is fixable. You know, people go through rough patches. Sometimes someone else hurts someone else, and we both need space. Like, that kind of stuff is very rare. Like, there's very, like, especially in this genre, there's sort of like a ride or die line. Like, if you separate, you're definitely gonna divorce, and if you divorced, you're definitely never gonna speak to each other again. Like, and real relationships aren't like that, you know? And it's cool to see Peter sort of represent that in his older stages and kind of be like, okay, well, I really fucked up, and I don't know how to fix it.
Well, it's like he literally almost the entirety of the movie trying to apologize to MJ. And it's not even his MJ.
Yeah, that one scene in the party. That one scene during the party where he was like...
Also, who knew that we also could love and appreciate Nicolas fucking Cage as Spider-Man?
Oh, I already knew.
Wasn't that weird?
Nicolas Cage. That wasn't a surprise for me.
Spider Noir said that he loved everyone very much, and I was like, oh my god. Everyone loves everyone very much. That's the amazing thing. All of our male characters said I love you. All of them.
Even Spider-Ham. Like...
Even Spider-Ham.
That's the thing, that couldn't even happen in live action. But, like, we passed I love yous around the freaking circle, and nobody flinched. The entire audience just accepted it. It was beautiful. It was effortless. So many good things.
Because they allowed superheroes to actually be vulnerable. Like, when you actually allow your heroes to actually feel and not be like, oh, well, I need to save the day. That's my goal throughout the entirety of this movie. Like, that's part of the story. But when that's all that the story is, your characters feel like they have less weight. The movie has less weight when there's no sense of actual urgency and there's no sense of, like, well, these characters are actually dealing with things in a real way.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of that, can we talk about two things at once without, like, getting out of hand?
Sure.
Okay, but can we do that if those two things are Zack Snyder and Shazam? Maybe?
Yeah.
We can all try? Okay, because I want to bring something up. We haven't really talked on the podcast about what Zach said at the live event, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay, so I want to just crack it open. I have a transcript of what he said, and I'm happy to read it. But I just want to say, like, I want to talk about how Shazam kind of hits some of these ideas in this whole idea of superhero purity, and this, like, how, like, Shazam almost unpeels to like the first level of this issue, which is this idea that we need to have this superhero purity in order for superheroes to be superheroes. And I think one of my favorite things about Billy is that he's not perfect, and he's not an amazing person. He's not Clark Kent even. Like, you know, he's rougher on the edges. He breaks into cop cars. He locks cops in buildings. Like, I love that the first things that we see from Billy are, like, juvenile delinquent things. I love that he is disrespectful to authority. I love that, I love that he doesn't even get asked the question. And that the idea the Wizard sort of being like out of options when he gets to Billy is so refreshing, because I feel like the most toxic thing
Is the chosen
about,
one complex?
huh?
Well, I was gonna say the whole chosen one thing is so overdone.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
like it's you and only you.
Yeah, and the most toxic thing about the whole Shazam like story, the most toxic thing about it is this idea that like first of all, the Wizard couldn't find anyone who wasn't 9 fucking years old. That's terrible. And second of all, that like, you know, I mean, like, people who are wider fans of the DC universe at large are like, so the Wizard passed over Diana Prince. So the Wizard passed over Clark Kent. So the Wizard passed over Kyle Rayner. So the Wizard passed, like, literally, like, they're just looking at all these, like, great people in the universe and being like, you can't find a pure heart in this universe? Your compass is broken. But, like, the idea that, like, the Wizard actually just kind of, like, was like, fuck, and just picked a dude, like, is so awesome, because it just gives him this, like, great opportunity. We get this great opportunity to explore a hero who doesn't necessarily have to be pure, who, like, has been given this power mostly by accident, and everyone's just hoping for the best. You know, the man, you know, disintegrates into ash. Like, that's it. It's his last ditch play.
Like, here, you got powers, no takebacks.
Exactly. Exactly. And this could have gone terribly wrong, and we allow it to go terribly wrong for a while, and I think that's huge. Allowing it to go terribly wrong in the first place, and I think it lines up with Zach's philosophy exactly, and I think if you start pointing that out to people, it's going to make them super pissed, and I don't care.
But another thing I love is that, like, kind of carrying on that idea is that, like, in the movie they established that the Wizard has contacted so many people who weren't just little kids. Like adults, like men and women of various ages and types and ethnicity. Like, there wasn't like a set type of person he was necessarily looking for, like, other than the comics. I mean, the only similarity was the fact that, like, Savannah as a kid and Billy. That's literally it. Those are the only two people who were kind of similar-ish. Like, but beyond that, and, okay. Also, before I forget, because I want to acknowledge it. Can you talk about the fact that John Glover in 2 distinct DC universes is the father of an evil bald guy?
I thought that was a great in-joke. I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. I was already giggling about it, and I think my girlfriend was annoyed. But I was, like, sitting there like, tee like, Lex. But yeah, he's wonderful.
And also, like, didn't he, like... They
didn't pull any punches on that either. Like, he was terrible.
You know what's funny? I'm like, you know what? It's funny. I'm like, are they gonna push him out a window again?
Nope.
They sure are.
I'm still baffled that that he was even there. I'm like, John Glover's in the fucking DCEU. Like, holy shit! Like, can they bring back Tom? Can they bring back Erica? Can they bring back, like, everyone except for Allison?
Tom's gonna be an Arrow, so there's that.
No.
Tom who?
Tom Welling, the guy who played Superman in Smallville. Welcome back, Fatma.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
You missed a whole discussion right there.
What discussion was it about?
Spider-Man, Spider-Verse.
My big opinion. I liked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was nice, but I don't have a huge, like, I'm not a huge fan of Spider-Man in general. Like, I am a fan, and I do enjoy him as a superhero, and I will watch movies and think that, oh, sick, he can shoot webs and he's fun. But no, that wasn't me being sarcastic. It's just,
I know.
mediocre. And Into the Spider-Verse was quite nice. It was a nice, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like a 5 out of 5, but maybe because I wasn't very attached to the character. But I understand why everyone loved it so much. But yeah, that's my take on Into the Spider-Verse.
For me, like, to kind of end my point on Spider-Verse, like, Spider-Man is what got, like, the character of Spider-Man is what got me into superheroes to begin with. Like, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie is the reason why I am the fan of superheroes that I am today. So Spider-Verse like did everything I would have wanted in a Spider-Man movie and so much more. And by introducing like so many different Spider-Man you can all love. You can love Gwen. You can love Peter B. Parker. You can love Spider-Man Noir. You can love Penny Parker. You can like Spider-Ham. Like any of these, you can like any and all of them, and you're completely valid because they're all great characters.
And like without hitting the nail too completely on the head, like anyone can be Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
I like tear up whenever I even think about it. Like I can't. It's so like the
just
emotional
opens up.
impact was so
and
real.
Miles was so good in this movie, but like the emotional
Oh,
part,
yeah.
like
Can I just say something about Miles? Like,
Say everything.
what I can pretty much say everything at this point. But one thing I really loved about Miles Morales was that in the original comics, they tried way too hard to make him too much like Peter in the fact that he is a genius, he is a scientist, and he is pretty much handed everything to him. But in this, he's really just a regular kid. He's a regular black kid who lives, like, in Brooklyn, and what I really loved is that they really allowed Miles to not only embrace his African American side, but also his Latino side too. And they meshed it together to really create Miles to be his own character as opposed to just being the black version of Peter Parker. And I loved throughout this movie that he struggled with his powers. Like he didn't just automatically get it right off the bat. He struggled with it. He had problems. He couldn't really necessarily do all the things that Peter could. But then by the end of the film, as he starts to realize he has to do it his own way and not the way the other Spider people did, he really shined, which leads to probably one of the greatest scenes of the movie, which was the What's Up Danger scene where, embracing his inner Spider-Man, wearing the black suit with the hoodie and all of that. I can honestly tell you, I watch that scene every single day. Like every chance I get, I watch that scene because it is just that.
Honestly, it's up there with the Man of Steel flight scene as being such an iconic. Like it's so like it's so inspiring and makes you just want to jump off a building. I'll die, but I'll do it. Like. But seriously, like this, the movie does such a good job of honestly making you one connect with Miles, but two making like he's Spider-Man, but he's not like the Spider-Man you've seen before. Like they're not trying to beat you over the head with like, oh, like here's the Spider-Man you know. Like no, he's a brand new, unique Spider-Man. But he's just one of many Spider-Man. You can be Spider-Man. She can be Spider-Man. Anyone can be Spider-Man. All it takes is a little faith, and I love that message. Like, and it's so emotionally powerful for not only for little kids but for adults too. You know?
Yeah. Can I just say that this has been a good time to be a comic book fan with the recent movies that are coming out.
Oh, for sure.
This has been a good time to be any other type of comic book fan, possibly except the MCU as a moment.
Well, like it's almost like the MCU is a necessary evil because I feel like without the congestion of MCU movies, maybe we wouldn't have these movies that rose above the waterline and really stood out. And I kind of wonder if we don't have the MCU movies to thank in a certain way because they're sort of like oversaturating the market. Now people who are outside of the MCU have to try harder. They have to put a little bit more into it in order to rise above the noise of Marvel. And like people are getting like sort of like literally when I said like so I went and saw Shazam for my birthday, everyone was like, oh, I didn't know a Marvel movie was out. And I was like, well, that's the cool thing is it's not a Marvel movie, so you don't have to worry about that. And they were like, oh, okay, now what's that about? And I was like, oh my god, you're interested in it because it's not a Marvel movie? That's like the opposite of what they want. The opposite. What happened here? Like everything's turned on its head. But yeah, like I hesitate to say it because I think that it's a net evil, but it's evil things have good consequences too sometimes.
Yeah, like I barely have noticed Endgame.
Whoa!
I honestly,
You haven't noticed Endgame?
Like I can it's
I
sad
don't
that
care
I have
how
to
you
say
haven't
that.
because it's been everywhere, and
Oh,
all I
God.
hear is Endgame. And I think Shazam has taken a lot of negativity in terms of box office, is because everyone's just saving money for Endgame and would
Really?
rather go to Endgame rather than Shazam. Yes, Endgame has taken a lot of
Yeah, the
place on
question.
social media, and
I think
it's
the
not.
I guess it's just for me then.
I think the question has been for those moviegoers, at least inside the comic book watching community, and I think that's interesting because that's a thing now. Has been, am I gonna spend my money on Captain Marvel, or am I gonna spend my money on Endgame? And it skips over Shazam entirely, which sucks, but I think it's why the box office.
I definitely think so. The thing that Warner Brothers, they knew that the critical reception was going to be great for Shazam because, well, I'm sure they've had their general audience, screenings and stuff that they test with. So they thought, okay, well, yeah, it's in a really tricky time period, but because it's critically liked, it should still do well in the box office, which, again, they didn't really think about it because they should have put it either before Captain Marvel or like way after Endgame in the summer maybe, because they don't have anything in the summer. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like it could have benefited from being in a different time of year, because I mean,
because
it's not making terrible money.
I'm not saying it's making terrible money, but it deserves a lot more.
Yeah, but I'm just like I just think that it could have been more if they had more time to build it up, because I feel like the marketing could have been a lot better. Because I feel like people, for the most part, didn't really know what this movie was or that it even existed. And for the most part, I still feel like people don't really know that this movie exists. Like, there's so many people I've had to explain it to, like, oh, what's Shazam? Like, oh, well, man, it's like the movie Big meets superheroes. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Like, no, and like, it's harder to sell as a character that no one's ever really heard of. And of course, I can't say Captain Marvel and be like, oh, Brie Larson? No. Like, no.
The superior Captain Marvel.
Exactly.
So, like, the one thing that Aquaman did really well, obviously it was a big budget and it's beautiful as a movie and it has a lot of money been pumped into it. But it also did well in terms of the way it was released and the time as well, and the gap in the market that was present at that time. Mary Poppins was nothing, really, when you look at it, because it really wasn't great. Whereas...
I feel like they put more marketing push behind it, on the whole.
But you know what's funny is that, like, so many people were like, "Oh, Aquaman's gonna flop. Mary Poppins is gonna be the movie of the Christmas season. You watch." And Mary Poppins was just like I don't think it bombed, but I feel like it was just kind of like a financial dud. Like, it made money, but like at the end of the day, no one really cared. Like no one I know saw like Mary Poppins was like, "Wow, Disney did it again." I don't know who was really seen that movie.
Well, they wanted it to be the next Mary Poppins, and they were never going to get that.
And I'm not saying I haven't seen the movie. It could very well be a nice, cute movie. I'm not saying that against the movie. I'm just saying, like, the people who thought that it was going to be this juggernaut of a movie, like, I just think it's hilarious that, like, Aquaman, first of all, made almost twice the money that Justice League in its theatrical run did. And for one, being the first DCEU movie to break $1 billion.
Yeah.
Even more so than what I could have, like, when the word of mouth for Wonder Woman was getting really good, I was like, you know what, this might be the first movie to break $1 billion, and it didn't. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, whatever, like $1 billion, like, people make it the whole $1 billion thing so much of a bigger deal than it actually is. Like, whatever, at the end of the day. But I do think it's hilarious that, like, of all characters, it's Aquaman.
Yeah. I also wonder if that's just, like, another offset of overestimating the value of white people dollars. And just being like, well, like, the white people are all going to go to Mary Poppins. And it's like, well, like, sometimes you want everyone to go to a movie. And people who weren't white were invited to Aquaman in a very obvious way. Like, I think that always has an impact on the box office. I mean, Suicide Squad was, what Suicide Squad was, which was a little messy. We love
Beautiful.
We
It was
love
a beautiful
Suicide
movie
Squad.
that I love.
We love Suicide Squad. We love that. We love Suicide Squad. It's like our weird cousin with the lazy eye, and love our weird cousin with the lazy eye. But Suicide Squad being what Suicide Squad was, and still making
As much as it did.
big piles of money, makes it really obvious that we're overestimating the value of white people dollars. Because, we invited everyone to Suicide Squad. People were there, everybody got a seat at the table. Not everybody,
And everyone dressed up as Harley. I couldn't go a single day without seeing someone dressed up as Harley during that Halloween season. Every Halloween party that people were posting about, someone was dressed up as Harley Quinn. Sometimes it was dudes. People felt so inclined. I don't see
that's how we got that Academy Award.
Literally.
Yeah.
I just think that the way that people expect superhero movies to be, because of Marvel, I think is just it's ridiculous. That's what it is. It's ridiculous. Not every movie has to or will break $1 billion. It just won't.
For sure.
And no one. And it's funny. No one ever says this of Thor's never broken $1 billion. Not even Ragnarok, the movie that everyone loved, didn't break $1 billion. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man, those terrible movies never broke $1 billion. So no one ever says anything about those. But God forbid DC doesn't break $1 billion. Oh, DC's doomed to fail. When is the DCU gonna end? When are they gonna reboot? Oh, Shazam's the reboot. Yay! No. Stop.
Shazam's a reboot. If Shazam's a reboot, we're in trouble. Because, if your only measurement is how much money it makes in the box office, then, maybe Shazam didn't do well at all. It made a whole bunch of money for the people who made it because we didn't put any money into it. It didn't need a whole lot of money. It's a story about a bunch of kids running around. It didn't need that big budget. And it made a whole bunch of money for the studio. And that's what matters at the end of the day. For Warner Brothers, it seems to be about attention just as much, but nobody's panning this movie. Nobody's out there being oh, Shazam is the worst superhero movie ever. So, that's a better record than usual, because usually you have, a bunch of chuckleheads rolling in and being oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'd rather watch Bird. And it's stop, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to former critical approaches, at least they're making forward progression. At least nobody's out there panning Shazam.
I just think it should have. I personally wanted it to make loads of money.
Oh no, me too. I think we all do. But it's making the money that it should be making at the very least. It's financially successful for them. It's not the highest grossing superhero movie of all time, but they didn't invest a ton of money into it. It's still a great movie, but it didn't cost a lot for them, so they don't need a ton of money for them to make a profit. At the end of the day, that's all these companies are about, is making a profit. And if it's profitable, then of course they're going to be oh yeah, we'll do another one. If A is profitable, then B will be profitable, most likely.
I really want a number 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a...
I honestly I know they kind of teased it in the movie. I really want to see how Black Adam is in this universe and how the Rock's gonna portray.
Yeah.
Was Black Adam teased in the gold specs?
Yeah, and again, DC killing it with the history lessons again. Has DC ever disappointed with those at all?
I love them. I saw it. I was oh, Thornburg's got it, and he's doing a Zack Snyder lesson.
I want to see how the tone of Black Adam will be compared to Shazam. Because when those two characters are going to be in the same movie, I feel like there's going to be some real contrasting personalities that are mixed into this film. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most, because Black Adam is apparently going to be portrayed as more of an anti-hero turned villain, while Shazam will just be what we know of in Shazam. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two characters will interact in one movie.
I'm like picturing Billy wandering into the cave of darkness and meeting his darkest self, and like Black Adam being like kind of like, because Dwayne has such an amazing smile, like being kind of weird and smiley, but in a way that really freaks you out. Like you're watching it, you're like, oh, he's not smiling for a good reason. He's smiling for a reason. Like that's what I'm picturing. Just because like I think they should take advantage of the fact that Dwayne has like this incredible grin, and it's very Captain Marvel-y in its approach, but that he can put that darkness into that grin and scare the living shit out of me and make me cry in the theater, which is fine. That's his right.
Yeah. I heard Hawkman is going to be in the Black Adam movie.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's because it sounds like they almost like want to introduce the JSA, just from the things that people are saying. And granted, that doesn't mean any of it's true. But I honestly don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Feels like bait.
Yeah, but I mean, granted, I'm still not like super hyped about like a solo Black Adam movie necessarily. Mm-hmm. But because it's The Rock, I'm on board. Like if it wasn't him, I'm not sure how I would feel about it.
I can't comment intelligently on that. I'm blinded by Crush. It's real bad.
But you know what's hilarious? Like,
I love the Scorpion King, you guys. It's not about the quality of the film. It's about being The Rock and being like, what did we watch the other night that I spent the whole time just being like, God, he's beautiful. He's just so beautiful. Doom, the Doom movie, which is the worst I've ever watched in my entire life, but I watched it from beginning to end and I loved every moment of it. He is lit so beautifully in that film.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for him to do anything in the DCEU. I think he's going to be adorable, and that's really my only value at this point.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting seeing his dynamic with Zachary Levi, because I think they're both very charismatic actors.
Uh-huh.
So I wonder how it's going to mesh with like a darker, more serious character like Black Adam and Billy. Like, I really wonder how that's going to mesh, like, in a film. And by the way the Rock's teasing it, like, we're not going to see them in a film together for a while.
Which is weird. I don't know. It's fine, but it's weird.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gets, like, I think, The Rock is going to get, at least the production's going to start next year, I think. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think it should just start soon, because, like, Shazam got, like, a good critical, got good reviews, so hopefully WB be more willing to like push that production to get started soon. So yeah.
Yeah, because they're talking about like Rock's isn't so Black Adam isn't gonna be in Shazam 2.
Okay.
And so like even then I'm like I love The Rock and I'm really curious to see how he's gonna be as Black Adam, but is it really worth waiting that long for a movie that honestly has a chance of not ever being made?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a chance we might not see the two of them together.
I think it'll be made, and I think it'll be great. But I just like getting DC movies more and more now. Even though it, parts of it breaks my heart, but I think it'll happen, especially with how much he's been involved with so far. And I think they'll do it in a really smart way. I think with Shazam 2 and with that post-credit scene, I don't know much about the Shazam universe, so I'm not going to attempt to pretend that I do. But maybe with what he was saying to Savannah, they'll link Shazam 2 to Black Adam, and then at the end of Shazam 2 and at the end of Black Adam, it is Black Adam, right? At the end of the Black Adam movie, Shazam 2 and Black Adam link somehow, and not in a post-credit scene, but in a you see Billy wondering, like you said, and then in Black Adam, in that movie. I don't know, I'm trying to make it make sense, but I think it'll happen because, you know, it's doing really well.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry,
I mean,
take a little break. I have to go change my daughter, so keep on talking.
Oh, bless.
So there actually is something that I've been meaning to talk about, and it's been an argument that I've been getting into with a lot of people, and it's regards to something that Zack Snyder said in regards to Batman. I think we all know what it is.
Nope. He said
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, but the argument that
Can I read it real quick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, dude.
Okay. Because I went and transcribed it because a lot of what he said has been like misappropriated and misquoted, and I want to make sure that we got the record straight. I'll just read it and then whatever everybody wants to say. Alright, so he said, once you've, lost your virginity to this fucking movie, he's talking about Watchmen specifically, and then you come to me and say to me something about, oh, my superhero wouldn't do that. I'm like, are you serious? I'm down the fucking road on that. You know what I mean? And it's a cool point of view. Look, I'm 100% fine with that. It's a cool point of view to be like, my heroes are still innocent. My heroes didn't fucking, lie to America. My heroes didn't, embezzle money from their corporation. My heroes didn't fucking commit any atrocities. I'm like, that's cool, but you're living in a fucking dream world. That's exactly.
Oh, that quote. Okay. Yeah, definitely know that.
I mean, if that's the one we're talking about in terms of Batman killing, that is what was literally said at the live event.
Yeah. And the problem with that is, a lot of people don't really understand what he meant when he said by that. They just think of it as just him ranting on, but no, that really is the case. Because Batman is not this pure-hearted superhero whom, should be followed and respected all the way 100%. Batman has terrible flaws that hold him back, He may not kill the criminals, but he does torture them in ways that would make you think he's from the medieval times.
And he's a shitty dad in 100 ways. Let's not forget that. He fails at fatherhood frequently.
Yeah. And the things that he does and the actions that he does, someone would have had to at least die because of his actions. If you punch someone in the ribs a certain way, they can bleed internally. Or in Injustice 2, when he was beating the crap out of that one police officer in the head, Damian was like, oh, so you're fine, so you don't kill, but you're fine with brain hemorrhaging.
Nobody reads you like your kids do.
But yeah, that's always been the argument that I've been getting into a lot with people, with this whole sense that Batman would never kill. Batman would never, kill somebody. And it's well, that's nice, but if we're being realistic here, Batman would have had plenty of blood on his hands if he was a real person.
Well, and we're also talking about Batman's a people, and people make mistakes. When we really want to get right down to it, we're not having a conversation necessarily about Batman anymore. And that's the part where I lose my temper, and I went off on Twitter a couple times where I just cannot handle this conversation after a certain point, because this is about who heroes are and aren't allowed to be, and it's about purity culture, and it's about the fact that we don't get to treat our heroes like human beings because we don't think we're responsible for the same kind of heroism. We put them in a category, we put us in a category. We get to be fallible. The heroes don't get to be fallible, and I think that's one of the things that I felt resonated in terms of Shazam, because you literally have a superhero doing all the wrong things right away, doing all the selfish things, to being a real and complete and total person. And yeah, that hero's 14, and that maybe has some bearing on the situation. But at the same token, it doesn't mean that it's any less reflective of like the way we should be writing these films, which is by treating these heroes as regular people and saying like, you know, what mistakes would they make, and are they allowed to make them?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, he was calling out Batman. Batman embezzles money. Like, he was not being unspecific there. When he says my hero wouldn't embezzle from his corporation, like, he's literally talking about Batman literally embezzling money. It happens in a Nolan film, and we just ignore it because we're like, oh well, it's Batman, like, you know, when he does it it's right. It's like, no, when he does it it's still not right. Like, it's very silly to try and make this argument and to try and be like, oh well, that changes who he is as a person. Like, I'm sorry, when you swear in front of a child accidentally, does that change who you are as a person? You know, like, no, it's just a mistake you made. You know, if you're accidentally hit someone while you're drunk driving, does that make you a bad person? No, it's a terrible thing that happened. It's a terrible thing, but it happens. And to pretend that it doesn't happen holds everybody to a standard that's impossible to meet. And then they can just give up. They can just say, oh, well, I don't have to try and be a good person because it's impossible. The only person who's a good person is that fictional character. Bullshit.
That's what's frustrating to me. I saw a lot of, like, leftist people I follow on Twitter, or at least I know of, get like really upset about like Jack said. I don't know like why this is the comment that made you like we suddenly care about Batman, because like they really talk about comic books, let alone like Batman. So I don't know why. This is really frustrating how like these are the same people probably like have that old take where like, oh, Batman like, only like is a rich white man who only beats up the poor and the mentally ill, but like saying like, oh, he also maybe even like unintentionally kills people. It's like a step too far. Like it just feels like it just seems like this is an excuse to like kind of bitch about Zach when like he hasn't been on the limelight for a while. It's like, if you don't like his movie so much, like why do you still care? Like he's most likely never going to touch Superman or Batman anymore. So you won. Like move on. You know,
for real,
exactly.
For real.
And to talk about that, like people really starting to make a big deal saying, oh, Batman. People are starting to choose what they want to see when it comes to Batman, because they're like, no Batman has ever killed before. Yeah, except every live-action Batman that has killed, except George Clooney. George Clooney is the only Batman who has actually never killed anybody.
Okay, no, that's wrong. He did kill the franchise.
Okay, maybe all of them did kill at some point.
Oh, no.
But it just annoys me when people are like,
don't make
Batman
fun of George. He's the only real Batman.
Here's the thing. I want to say that real quick. Like, I don't think that Batman and Robin is the worst film ever made. If you look at it as like a modern episode or a modern retelling of the animated or of Adam West Batman, it's not bad. It's just inherently over the top and cheesy and ridiculous. I have found enjoyment in it looking at it that way.
George didn't kill the franchise, though. We all understand by putting a Robin in that movie, they all killed the franchise. Like, we gotta be honest about what's killing the franchise, and that is treating Batman like a real person with real relationships. Oops.
Which is why, honestly,
I'm tired.
So to kind of segue into Batman-ish news, how do we all feel about Ben officially being gone? Because, I mean, I knew it was coming at some point in the future. Like, but I didn't think that it was going to be this soon. But, I mean, granted, I don't blame Ben. I'm sad. But I'm mad more at WB more than anyone else. Like, look,
yeah, I'm really upset about like Ben leaving. Like you said, I'm not surprised, especially after Justice League, but it just feels like this didn't have to happen. Just like
it happened to him again.
Planned better,
you
know.
This whole thing happened to him again. Like he signed up to his Batman, and I had this conversation with Amy earlier, right before the podcast, right before she left. I was like, you know what? I still think Ben is the best live action Batman we ever have or ever will get. Period. If Batman v Superman, he's just that fucking good in it. You can talk about him as a person all you want. Granted, I think in person he's pretty much an asshole. Like I don't disagree with people. I think people are perfectly valid in hating him for the shit he's done in the past, with some of the things he said in the past. I think he probably is an asshole to a degree, or however much of a degree that is. I don't blame people for that. I feel that way. But as far as just singular performance goes, I still think he's the best Batman. Nothing's gonna change that. I'm still fucking pissed at WB for doing that to him with Justice League. Justice League literally turned him into a parody of himself. Like, and Ben phoned the fuck out of that performance in, because I would have too. Like, if I looked at Justice League, what Joss was doing with it, with what WB was doing with it, I had no reason to give my all into it. Why would I? And I don't blame him for it.
My heart is broken and numb, and I cannot watch Batman vs Superman without crying every time I look at Ben Affleck. So that's all I have to say about this without, crying.
Yeah.
That is how much I love Ben Affleck as Batman. It's shit all around.
Yeah.
I just didn't think that this would actually happen. I had hope till the last second of the announcement.
And honestly, and there were so many people on Twitter who were like, guys, we all knew this was happening. And everyone was like upset that we were upset. Like, we have every right to be upset. Who cares if we knew at some point this was going to happen? Of course it was going to happen. Ben Affleck was going to die at some point. He was never going to be Batman forever. No one, no pun intended, but we all knew his time being Batman was limited. We all knew that. But we're still allowed to be upset if we lost our favorite portrayal of the character. Like, I'm going to be sad when Henry is no longer Superman. And like, I still don't buy the reports that are saying that he's done. Like, I didn't buy the initial report saying that Ben was done. But at the same time, like, if there's nothing for Henry to do, I don't blame him if he leaves too. Because Warner Brothers, they're obviously shifting directions. They obviously care a lot about Gal. They care a lot about Jason. They care, right now it looks like they're caring a decent amount about Zachary Levi. But I feel like then, look, here's another thing too. Like, Ezra right now is up in the air. He's literally, Ezra's fighting for his film. They literally said, give us a script or you're done. Like, give us a good script that we like or you're done being the Flash. Which is so fucking unfair. Like, what other actor has to ever go through that? Who? Of all people, why Ezra? Why is he the one who has to be on the chopping block? Like, they should be the one that they should be pandering to, not the fucking directors of Game Night. I enjoyed that movie, but I'd rather lose them than lose Ezra. Like, and they all talk about making, a cinematic universe or whatever. Like, granted, they aren't as big as like the team-up stuff anymore, but still, like, you have established actors and established characters, and if all you're doing is like rebooting everyone, then what's the fucking point?
Nick, here's the thing, right? I'm currently only focusing about the positive things that are happening in the DCEU, because the negative things are just ridiculous. The Ezra Miller situation. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. The Ezra Miller situation, the Ben Affleck departure, the Henry Cavill shenanigans, all of it is just absolutely heartbreaking. And we were in such a good place, and it's just like I can't bear to give it any more attention. If they leave because Warner Brothers are shit, then they leave. But I also don't want to abandon my DC characters, so I'll support the movies and just take what I get, because who am I against? Warner Brothers. I don't know. I definitely won't be supporting the James Gunn Suicide Squad. I'm not going to see that. But Wonder Woman 84 and even the Joker movie, I'm quite excited for that. And Birds of Prey, I'll watch those and try and forget that we've got all of this crap happening in the background. I'm in such a state of denial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's honestly it's such a weird place right now with the DCEU. Like, there's so much I'm angry about, but also so much I'm happy about. Like, I loved Aquaman. I really enjoyed Shazam. I'm still really looking forward to Wonder Woman 1984. I'm really looking forward to Birds of Prey. Joker, I'm pretty excited for that. Not gonna lie, I know there's people that aren't for valid reasons, and that's fine. And of course, I could give two shits about James Gunn and his movie, because James Gunn can go jump off a cliff and die for all I care. But for me personally, like, I'm still gonna try to support the films that I am looking forward to. But there's a lot of things I'm still worried about, and a lot of things that still just in general make me angry. So, I mean, of course, there's things we're going to keep talking about as these films keep progressing and stuff like that. But, yeah, I'm still sad. And I still want Zack's cut of Justice League.
Should we do a ranking so far?
Yeah, because Camila, who is one of the members of the podcast, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, did ask us where Shazam stands and what our current ranking of the DCEU is as it stands right now with Shazam. So whoever else here, if you guys each want to go around and kind of give your overall ranking of the DCEU and where Shazam stands at that, if you haven't already. Hello, anyone still there?
I'm still here. I'm just waiting for anyone who wants to go first.
Yeah, I'm here. I guess my ranking would be BVS, Man of Steel. I think Aquaman and Wonder Woman tied together. Shazam, Suicide Squad, Apollo Poop, then Justice League.
Wait, okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I would say Justice League last, obviously. Then after that would probably be Wonder Woman, but only because of, after seeing Suicide Squad again and realizing it's not as bad. It's just a fun, stupid movie. But I would say Justice League last, then Wonder Woman, then Suicide Squad, then Aquaman, then Shazam, then BVS, then Man of Steel.
I'm actually just trying to make sure I don't forget anybody.
Alright, so basically it's you, me, and Fat Maluf. So whoever you guys want to go.
So you can go, Danielle.
Okay, let's see. Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Shazam, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Suicide Squad. I guess Justice League has to be on the list. Three scenes in Justice League are almost as good as Suicide Squad.
Batman vs Superman, Man of Steel, Aquaman, Shazam, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and whatever that thing was that came out.
Those two deleted scenes in Justice League.
Oh yeah. Then those up there with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman there.
Oh yeah, you're right. Those come as two-parters.
So if we're talking about Justice League, can I include those deleted scenes and the leaked scene of Clark on the farm?
Oh shit! I forgot that it ruined my life.
Can those just be the movie, just those little bits and the proposal discussion?
And the proposal.
Can that just be the movie? in which case, that's like I said, up there with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. No?
Pretty much.
Okay.
That's 3 or 4.
Okay, so my list I think is pretty much Emily's. So I have Batman v Superman, Man of Steel and Aquaman tied. Then Wonder Woman, then Shazam, then Suicide Squad. and then Justice shit. There. That's my list.
Sounds about right.
To be honest, anyone who doesn't have Justice League at the bottom of the list, I really judge, and I'm not kidding.
Oh, like, for sure.
Like honestly, anyone who calls Justice League a good movie, I either, if I follow that person, I unfollow them, or I block them, or I just fail to acknowledge, or I just don't acknowledge that they have good opinions ever.
We're definitely not taking recommendations from Justice League apologists, ever.
Like, seriously, I still am baffled that people can call Justice League a good movie, or say that was a good interpretation of Superman. I still don't understand.
That's the most hurtful thing you can say about Justice League, honestly. I can't think of anything and that's why there's so much hurt at the center of that film, is because like people honestly believe that. People honestly think that was like the best you can do with live action Superman. Yikes.
I know. It's so terrible. Like
actually, that was my main concern with the Shazam cameo, and I think that's why it was so great. Is because I was so worried that it would be like Justice League in the way that he's always in service to other characters. Like, he never actually gets to like have emotions of his own. His emotions are all like dependent on the needs of other characters, specifically like the other heroes on the team. And I was worried chiefly that this would just be like a moment that would just be like about Billy, and Superman would just show up and Mary Sue his way through things and be like, Billy, you're so great.
Danielle,
I'm so proud of you.
How would you feel if if Henry ended up being in the cameo and his line ended up being, "Well, I believe in friendship."
Oh my god.
But I'm a really big fan.
But I'm also a big fan of family.
Jesus. That's the thing. That was my worst case scenario, and honestly, cutting Henry out of the equation made it so that they didn't get to put any fucking words in my son's mouth, and it was as actually for the best, because like I think you have to really sit. I mean, like, I trust David Sandberg a little bit more because he clearly loves Superman.
He does.
Like, I don't know in what fashion he loves Superman.
He doesn't. Okay, here's the thing. David doesn't have to like Zack's, but if he's working in the universe, he has to at least respect that.
That's the thing. That's the theme that Shazam was so loyal to, was this idea that if you're in the DC universe, you love and respect Superman. That's just a rule. Sorry, it's just a rule. And maybe that should be a stand, but I feel like that's the ground you have to start on. And after that, you can do whatever the fuck you want. But before that, you have to be like, hi, I would like to, stop and give praise to our father Superman, who invented the genre and deserves our respect. That's all.
Yeah, and you can see it in Freddy's excitement every time the mention of Superman comes up. Like, the dude literally has a bullet that was shot into Superman's chest.
I just have to go, but it was really nice talking to you guys, and I hope you're all doing well, and glad that Shazam's a movie that we all love, and yeah, it was nice talking. Sorry, bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Emily. Say bye-bye, Fatma.
Bye, Emily. You're so adorable. I'm loving you all the way from the UK.
She waved. Okay, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. Totally forgot my See, this is what my daughter does to me. I'll be so, like, into whatever she's doing. She could be literally doing nothing, and I'm lost in thought because I'm just staring at her.
No, for Freddy, it was just like there was a holiness to the way that he discussed Superman. Like, it was just like there was amount of reverence that made you feel like, like there was gravity in the room for Superman. And I feel like that alone was enough respect to make me feel like David Sandberg could be trusted to maybe write a 2-minute scene with Superman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and not only with Superman, but also with Lois. Like, if you read the little notebooks that Freddy had, he was basically talking about how he was gushing about being able to meet Lois and sending her like his superhero stuff regarding Superman, and then she wrote him back and he was like,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty famous now, guys. I'm sorry. It's kind of lonely here up on the top.
And see here, and also, can we talk about the fact that he has this whole shrine to Superman too?
Yeah.
Like seriously, like the fact, and also the batarang, of course. Okay, but for a brief second, when you see that batarang being thrown in the Rock of Eternity, was there ever a moment where you guys, for a second, thought we were going to see Batman?
Yeah, because the theme played.
Did it?
Yeah, when he threw it, when he was that dun dun dun. That's like Batman's theme from BVS.
Wow, I didn't even notice that. Because here's the thing, can you imagine if Ben had shown up in that scene?
This would have been such a power move.
And, like that was his final performance as Batman, was one quick scene.
Just came in to say hi to Billy, guys. Bye.
But seriously, I still think it's so cool when like this and Suicide Squad, like obviously it's an interesting conversation to have, but like when you see all of like the merchandise for these heroes, like they're making action figures for Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, like Cyborg, Flash, like they're literally like celebrities in this world. You know?
Yeah.
I know they do that kind of stuff with the MCU, but it's like they treat them so much differently in the DCEU, where like they're still like in the public eye, still being they're still being judged for everything that they do. Everything.
Well, that's the thing. So like, the MCU seems to have taken like the X-Men approach to superheroes, where they're sort of like, they're kind of famous, but like everybody still kind of sees them as like outcasts, and they're like they've got like semi-freak status. Like they have like a little bit of celebrity, but mostly like semi-freak status. And I think that the DCEU has done something really interesting, where they're sort of like, you know, they're part of the culture. And I think that just reflects like what DC is, which is like an inextricable part of the culture. And that's the reason everybody can't shut their mouths about it, because they're like, this belongs to us. And they're not wrong. It does belong to all of us. It's just like, you know, some of us know what we're talking about, and some of us have seen one movie, and we're like, or have heard about Superman, and are like, hey, I'm an expert. But like that's the thing, is like the superhero thing like is intrinsic to the culture already, and it's only been a couple of years. Honestly, it's kind of interesting to see like how it shapes the DCEU and how everybody is completely different because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing too, like this movie, like looking back on it, like, just the way it builds up to that finale is so well. Like it builds up to a family coming together. Not even a big superhero climactic battle necessarily. Like seriously, my favorite part of the movie is when all of the foster kids get superpowers and start working together. Like is when you get to see that all of them together. Like that to me means so much more to me than just seeing Shazam do superhero shit.
Not since Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a actual hero learned the lesson that power is more powerful when you share it. Not since Buffy the fucking Vampire Slayer. And that was like the last episode in, like 2002? We have had a huge gap between this idea that superheroes should share power. It's absolutely a feminist idea, and it's absolutely revolutionary that it's happening inside of a superhero movie about a little boy. Like, I had high expectations when it came to masculinity with this movie, and some things were, a bit off kilter, but that alone sells me. That alone is enough. Like, that is a cool gesture for him to be like, oh, hey, I figured out the secret to my power. The secret to my power is giving it to others. Holy shit, what a transformative, radical thing to put in a film. Like, that was huge. That was intense. That was intense for me. Like, I was like, oh, we don't do that. We do the lone hero. We do the, the single cowboy going out on his midnight ride. We do all of that. Like, we do that loner culture. And for Billy to break that by being like, oh, hey, like, I figured out the secret. The secret is having more superheroes, not less. You know, the secret is diluting this power and putting it into my friends and having my friends help me. You know, and at the end of the day, the power is that he has a really amazing family that likes him and loves him and wants him to succeed. Like, that's the superpower that he like discovered, and that's amazing. That's an amazing moral. Like, that's not something that we teach little boys specifically. And every little boy left the theater understanding that implicitly. That's intense. That's huge education all happening at once.
Yeah, I just wish that more films in general would embrace that idea, because it doesn't have to be all about the singular titular hero. It really doesn't. Like, when you include, like, the inclusivity of Shazam makes it so much more impactful than, like, and even to a degree, Suicide Squad, with, like, Diablo's, like, basically, like, calling them his family and fighting for them, sacrificing himself for them. It's so much more impactful than just the hero doing it because he feels like he's obligated to. Like, I understand the importance of the whole with great power comes great responsibility, but, like, I feel it needs to be so much more when we recognize that it's not about you.
Yes, yeah. And it's not about you. It's exactly what Billy needed to learn, and it's exactly what the film taught him, and that's so cool. Like, that's so cool. It's not about what Billy needs. It's not about what Billy wants. It's not about, you know, Billy looking out for number one. He literally says that in a scene to someone. He literally says that in a scene to Mary. He says, you know, you got to look out for number one. And she's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard a superhero say ever. She's looking at him like, do you know how dumb that sounds coming out of the mouth of a superhero? And he doesn't realize it because he hasn't learned the lesson yet. But then when he learns the lesson, the whole movie changes, and everything gets more successful, and everything gets easier, and everything becomes a real superhero because he figures out, like, what the actual secret is. And the actual secret is loving and depending on other people and really opening up and giving people the benefit of the doubt and trusting and handing over your power. Like, all of that is so powerful. Like, big time powerful. And he needs a whole movie to learn that. And that's the reason that I think that superheroes being perfect at the beginning of the movie is fucking stupid. Yeah. Grow up, you're living in a fucking dream world.
to bring it full circle there, Danielle.
Full circle, always. Always.
What can I just say about the whole, like, Zack Snyder thing? Like, I was so... I mean, I knew I probably wasn't going to go, but I'm like, Zack, why couldn't you have done this, like, a year ago when I could have gone? Like...
Why couldn't he have given us 6-month notice?
I know.
I think that's reasonable. I'm not asking for a whole lot. I'm asking for the time to buy a reasonably priced plane ticket, okay? Like, that's all I want. I could have made everything else work. Yeah, it was very rude.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I probably would have made... granted, I will say, like, $100 a day is a little steep. It's a little steep. But that's probably not because of him. That's probably because of the school. That's just what they were charging. Because they need money.
Well, I also think that it was like a scarcity price. Like, he only had a certain number of seats to sell, and I think they need to be high priced, not to have it be like a if you aren't awake in this time zone, you're gonna miss out kind of price. Yeah. So like I think it was a number of factors, but I mean, like. It sucks. I wish he'd go on tour. Oh my god, if he went on tour, I would totally go.
Oh god, me too.
Somebody drop an idea to him.
Honestly, like, I will die if and when I meet Zack. Granted, I'm lucky enough to have had a few interactions with him on Vero and stuff. Like, last year, he wished me happy birthday. We've had a couple of interactions since. He told me the best cut of Sucker Punch is to watch the extended cut. He told me that, so I appreciate that. But still, like, in person, like, I don't even know what I would say. Especially because looking at some of the people who, like, all they wanted to do was ask him about the Snyder Cut. And I'm like, dude, fuck you. Why would you do that? No! Just talk about your love of the movies. Don't bring up Justice League. Please don't bring up Justice League. Like.
And shout out to Joe for asking him that great question about Spider-Man. Everybody who bullied him on the internet is a fucking sleaze.
Oh, I know. Okay. Oh,
annoyed.
also, before I forget, I mean, and it sucks because not everyone's here now. What are your thoughts on his comments on Lois Lane's original death? That he was I mean, Danielle, I basically already know how you feel because I saw your Twitter.
I have a lot of feelings. I'm mad.
Go off.
Like, it could have worked maybe if, like, I don't know, just, like, apparently it's going to be a multi-part, like, kind of story, right? So maybe the next movie, like, Justice League movie, be all resolved, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it just seems like maybe the one case where maybe someone who's, like, not, like, a empty suit could, like, kind of took Zack aside and maybe this won't work. Maybe I can see where you're going, but maybe let's change these up a bit, you know. But I don't know how to feel about it as a whole.
Maybe Debbie would have intervened. Like, you know, we don't know because it wasn't made, but the idea was stupid, and Snyder fans who are real Snyder fans should be able to say that. We should be able to say that with our whole chest because it's true. It was a dumb idea. It was dumb and it was basic. And the thing is, the most disappointing part of it is not that it's like a kind of misogynist move. It's that it was basic. It's that I expect more of Zack. I expect better. I expect something innovative. And that's the most boring thing you could have possibly done with Lois Lane in this movie. So clearly you didn't think about it for long enough and you need to go back to the fucking drawing board. And I would have sent him back if I were in charge. I would have been like, nope, not good enough. I want a Zack Snyder movie, not fucking Joss Whedon again.
Okay, I will say, to play devil's advocate a bit, in BVS, when you're looking at the Nightmare timeline and Superman says, she was my world and you took her from me, I mean, what? I'm not trying to, like, demean you in any way or invalidate your opinion in any way. I'm just asking, like, seriously, like, what did you think was gonna happen?
Okay, here's the thing. I've been in denial for a very long time. So, here are the scenarios I've constructed. Darkseid literally just gives Clark a vision of Lois Lane dying and it being Batman's fault, and boom, all of a sudden he's, he's being corrupted. It's not like one day Lois dies and Clark snaps. We can all agree on that. That's ridiculous. That's not how. Well,
that's the whole
works.
thing of the anti-life equation. That's the whole reason why it's there.
Yeah, he's being corrupted. So, like, him being susceptible to corruption when influenced by a vision, and maybe just being, like, slightly stupid enough to be like, oh, well, that seems to have happened. Like, that's fine with me. Like, that would have been a fine way to go with it. And then have Lois show up and be like, you're stupid. What the fuck? That would have been fine. I also think that they should have left the Nightmareverse the way it was and just never fucking touched it. Like, honestly, I know that the implication was that Batman was responsible for Lois dying, but, like, also, you took her from me is so fucking broad. It could have been a thing where, like, and honestly, I've been thinking about the language a lot because, you know, I want this to not be a thing, but it could have been a situation where literally Clark starts going, you know, around the bend the way he does. Like we have Justice League cartoons, and when she goes around the bend, and literally Lois drops the fuck out. Lois is like, oop, this isn't my mission. Fuck you. Bye. And, you know, maybe Batman and her have a conversation at one point, and he's like, hey, Clark's doing some really fucked up shit. And then Lois is like, yeah, he totally is, and that's the origin of Lois's, like, you know, epiphany to, like, fucking move out of the apartment, or kick him out rather, because it's her apartment.
That doesn't seem like a bad idea.
I mean, like, that's the thing. It's like it's a bad idea at the bottom. Like, there's plenty of ways that he could have salvaged this. There's plenty of ways, and one of them was ignoring the nightmare altogether, which would have been great. But yeah, there's plenty of ways he could have salvaged this, and I expected him to Zack Snyder the fuck out of it, honestly. I expected to go in there and be like, oh no, because that's what I did going into Batman vs. Superman. I was like, oh, he was the worst quote in the entire world, and I hate that comic so much in that interview. And then, you know, he turned it around and made it something magical. I expected him to Zack Snyder it, and he obviously wasn't going to. He was obviously going to screw the pooch, and that's unfortunate. He should have course corrected. And if he'd been given a chance, maybe he fucking would have. Because he already had a plan to course correct. Like, clearly she was galloping to the rescue in one of the cuts of this film. You know? I mean, the original idea is something that was never shot. And that's the thing. It's been getting way too much emphasis because, like, this never went on film. Like, the Snyder Cut does not include a dead Lois. It just doesn't.
It's the at the time, it was the WB approved post BVS review version of Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're gonna get. We're not gonna get. We were never gonna get Zack's original vision for the movie because it was never shot. We were getting not. I want to say watered down, but
there's a level at which critical feedback for your ideas is a useful thing, and I think that Warner Brothers had every right to step in and be like, hey, this is a shitty idea and it's gonna make people write you death threats, so maybe just don't do it. You know? Yeah, again, like, they'd just be like, hey, Zack, if you love yourself, you won't kill Lois Lane. And he would have been like, oh yeah, well, he obviously was like, oh yeah, maybe I don't want everyone to want me dead. And then he, clearly did a rewrite with Chris Terrio that looked beautiful. That was like a beautiful idea. It was very sweepingly romantic. And he leaned into the romance, which is one of his strengths, weird enough. And what got shot, I think, was probably the best version of the story that they were telling. I don't think that there's anything wrong. I don't think that Warner Brothers coming to him and saying, like, Zack, we think this is a bad idea, constitutes meddling. I think once the film is in the can, and you start saying, we're going to fire you and hire someone new to finish this movie that you have been adjusting, then that constitutes meddling. But saying in the first place, looking at the first draft and being like, oh shit, this is bad, is not meddling. It's just, I mean, like, they have the right to ask for another draft. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing about, like, okay, I really do wish that we got to see more of what Zack was initially planning. I wish that we got to see more that he was planning to do as far as, like, what he was going to do with the League, with Superman, with Lois, with Batman. Because even looking at that All the Gods shirt, I think that's very much so implying that Batman, he was planning to kill off Batman. Like, his 5-movie arc plan, or whatever it ended up being, was going to include the death of Batman. And ultimately, I think that's why Ben signed on. It was a finite number of movies. It wasn't going to be like, oh, it's going to be the MCU where you're playing the character for like 10 plus years. Like, no, Ben would probably sign on to do like 3-4 movies, or however many he signed up for. And then he was going to die, and then that was going to be it. And then that was going to be, whatever the finale was that Zack was planning, was going to be the end of what we know as the DCEU. I don't think they were initially necessarily setting up for the DCEU as it is right now. I think now is more in response. I mean, I think that they definitely, Zack was setting up in a way that if they want to spin out Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash into movies, they can. But as far as the story that Zack was trying to tell, it was going to be a very finite story. But now we're never going to know what that story was ultimately going to end up being. I mean, Zack has been like giving us little like breadcrumbs of like what it might have been, but I don't think we're ever going to see the light of day of what truly he was going to do with these characters.
I mean, absolutely not. We're never going to see that. But I mean, I also think that we have to keep in mind that film is a collaborative art, and that if we're calling it a collaborative art, we have to admit that producers have a right to weigh in, Warner Brothers has a right to weigh in, all of these voices may or may not make things better, and I think that the Snyder Cut movement has sort of moved in this direction that's kind of toxic, which is like this like lone genius who is the only person with the answer to like what is really good in the DCEU, and that takes for granted the fact that, I mean, Debbie has definitely course corrected Zach a number of times. You can tell that happened. We know that Terrio and Zach worked cooperatively on this script, and that there were definitely changes made at that level. Like producers are in there, actors are getting a say. Gal Gadot is on record as adding many things to Wonder Woman as a character. All of that stuff has to be taken into account, and the idea that I think we have to be careful, because I love Zach, but I don't want to deify him, and I don't want to put him on a pedestal and say well, all of his ideas are good, because I would say I like Sucker Punch all right, but I don't think that it's a terribly successful movie that does what it set out to do. For most people, I think for a lot of people it works, but I don't think for wide audiences it works. It took me three tries to figure out what actually was happening in Sucker Punch, thematically speaking, and I was sitting down with, it was me and another literature teacher, just sitting down trying to be like, what is happening, and giving it the benefit of the doubt. I just don't think that Zach gets 100% of the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that anyone does. I don't know. I want things to stay collaborative, and I think in order for things to stay collaborative, that we have to give Warner Brothers the right to every once in a while be like, well, that plot's going to be kind of toxic to the franchise.
Yeah, well said. Did you see that cut of Aquaman being demarvelized or whatever?
Oh my god! Oh
yeah.
my god!
That was terrible. I didn't read everything. I never watched it first of all, but all the things the guy said, I'm like, oh my god, this is why fandom sucks. This is why we don't deserve nice things.
Well, and way to miss the entire point about artistic purity and about how people should be respected in their visions and stuff. Way to miss the entire point of the actual intended point of the Snyder Cut movement. That's the thing, is that so many of these Snyder Cut guys lose the map halfway through and start just getting obsessed with dark and gritty versions of their favorite heroes and Zack Snyder. And it's not about dark and gritty versions of your favorite heroes and Zack Snyder. It's way bigger than that. It's about artistic vision. It's about artist autonomy. It's about a lot of things that really have nothing to do with Zack. That it needs to be bigger than Zack. And if it's never going to get bigger than Zack, it will never do anything worthwhile. The best movements that the Snyder Cut movement has made have been when we've raised a bunch of money for charity, when we've taken a lot of kids to Black Panther. All of the DCU stuff that actually matters has come out of getting out of your fandom box and getting out of your fandom entitlement and realizing that it's not about a movie, it's not about a director, it's not about one particular person, it's about all of us and how we can make this genre better and how we can advocate for people who have been through this, which means that we need to defend people we need to defend people whose art has been manipulated against their will, and that includes weird fan cuts that try to make Aquaman into a Snyder film. Gross.
Yeah, if, to be honest, I can be fine if a fan of Aquaman just took out that one pee joke. Literally that's the one thing, and I'll be completely fine. But it does seem how there are people out there who think comic books need to always be lighthearted and fun no matter what. There seems to be an anti-version of that within the DCEU fandom. Within any movie, any comic movie that has maybe some humor in it is automatically a Marvel clone. It just seems such a black and white view. Not every DC movie with humor is a Marvel clone, but not every somewhat serious Marvel movie is a DC clone. It just feels relax. It's just cake movies, you should take them seriously, but not to the point where you just have these odd black and white view of pretty straightforward storytelling,
Yeah, it's about what is and isn't allowed, and there shouldn't be a level at which some things aren't allowed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there should be a time at which like we need to be making room for more visions and not being like, oh well, my vision is the only way to do things. Like I am super emotional about this status quo that we have right now that includes only movies that, you know, sugarcoat everything. I think it's super toxic. But I'm not saying that movies that sugarcoat everything should not exist. I'm saying that, like, if you try to eliminate everything else, that's a bad move, and it's going to be bad for the genre long term. And also, you're kind of a liberal mamby-pamby coward, and I mean that in the most like shitty liberal way, because like obviously I'm very progressive, but I'm saying that's not progressive. That's regressive. That has nothing to do with the movement. That's you just being a pushover because it's convenient to you, because it supports your privilege, because it lets you off the hook for work that you need to be doing in order to be a better person.
Like, if we have like our fictional heroes be flawed? Like, how do you react to like when like your real life hero like messes up? Like, it just feels like, why do you care so much? I feel like you're a leftist who really cares about issues. Like, why do you concern yourself about whether or not like a fictional character Batman accidentally kills like a fictional criminal? Like, how's that? Like, I don't know. This how you like care that much about something small, but you also claim to care about like such big things about like, I don't know. I just don't like it. I'm just kind of frustrated by like that dumb controversy a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm never getting over it. Everybody who follows me on Twitter knows that I lost my fucking mind that week.
Yeah, we all did. Yeah.
And I was not stable, and I was not calm, and I was ready to tear out throats. And I'm just never going to get past it, because I think that it's so dangerous. It's so dangerous to let ourselves off the hook like that. It's so dangerous for us to say, and this has been my sticking point since the beginning, I can't be Superman, so why should I try? That's the problem. That's the problem. Because if you can't try to be Superman, if you can't even begin the work that might get you there, you will never ever progress. We're always going to be stuck where we are. Yep. Because the only way to get to progress is actually changing yourself. And the thing is that Shazam knows this as a movie. Shazam is an incredibly progressive movie. It absolutely knows that good is a journey. And this is something that I'm stealing from Brett Culp, because he said it the other day and made me cry. But like, that good is about making intentional decisions that move you in the right direction. That's all. And the thing is, if you can't see your superheroes doing that, then you just think that they came straight out of the oven, you know, perfect. That they came straight out of the oven without any struggle, without trying to figure out who they were, that everything that they are is just like a coincidence of genetics, and that you can't achieve that because you aren't already that. That's garbage. That's the exact thing that gives you an excuse to give up. It's the exact thing that gives you an excuse for inaction. It's the exact thing that gives you an excuse to stay exactly as shitty as you are right now. You know? And nobody grows that way. And Shazam is all about growth. It's all about growth. It's the growth is the whole thing. I mean, like, he has one of his main thematic objects in the film is a fucking spinning compass. Like, Billy's just like trying to find the direction that he's moving in, and that's so powerful. I love that fucking movie, you guys.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm really happy you really brought it full circle once again there, Danielle. And that also it was a really nice button on the podcast, because unfortunately I do have to go. But I just want to say thank you guys. I missed the hell out of talking to you guys. It's been way too long.
Same.
Obviously not everyone was here. Our team wasn't here. Katie wasn't here. Amber wasn't here. Camila wasn't here. But we'll try to get once, because my work schedule is going to change soon for my daughter, because I'm going to be her primary watcher once my wife goes back to work. So I'll definitely be more available. So we will definitely be doing more podcasts soon. But thank you guys here. I know Al left, Fatma left, Rebecca left. But if you guys want to kind of go ahead and sign off and just tell everyone once again where they can find you online.
Okay, yeah. So Emily, you can find me on Twitter as Queen of Mars.
I'm Danielle, and if after all that you want to find me on a Social Justice League on Tumblr, there's lots more of it.
Or the Bravest Heart on Twitter. That's where you find a lot more.
That's where I swear more. That's where I get off the cuff, and that's where you'll see me fuck up the most. So if you're into that, that's where it happens. The Bravest Heart on Twitter.
All right, so thank you guys both for being here. I really appreciate you guys both taking the time out that you did to do this again. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem. I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, bye.
All right.
Bye.
And thank you everyone for listening. I know it's been a long time since we've had a podcast. Like I said, you guys will definitely be hearing more from us in the coming weeks. I don't know when exactly, but just keep posted on our Twitter at DC Films Podcast. Or my personal Twitter, just look up @Man of Steel_ Nick Crocker. Yeah, so that being said, that's going to be it from us. So until next time, guys, have a good one.